2L1, encounter, wait. Araka waved for his two teammates to stop. What's wrong? Baroka asked, confused. Look over there. Araka pointed. Baroka followed his finger and saw a child, about 8 or 9 years old, wearing a Konoha uniform and headband. Two peers accompanied him, asking something of the villagers. There's actually a Konoha ninja here, Baroka said, puzzled. But why is only one of them wearing a headband and a uniform? He frowned. Either everyone hides their identity or everyone shows it. What did it mean that two weren't wearing theirs while one was? Noticing their gaze, Kakashi looked in the same direction. Seeing the other party's dark skin tone, he became instantly alert. That wasn't a tan. Be careful, we might have run into the ninjas who injured the giant eagle. They aren't wearing headbands. Kakashi murmured to Metkai and Obito. So dark. Are these the cloud ninjas we encountered last time? Obito asked. He'd spotted 3 dark-skinned shinobi earlier, despite Kakashi not specifying a direction. Most likely, Kakashi answered, careful not to be definitive. Last time the Cloud Shinobi had disguised themselves as Iwagakure. This could be Iwagakure disguised as Cloud. Either way, they had been discovered. Araka drew the sharp sword from his back. The land of lightning and the land of fire were at war. Seeing ninja from an opposing village, even youngsters who didn't look very powerful, meant they would engage. Lead them to the nearby mountain. Fighting here will affect the villagers, Obito said, glancing around. The houses were wooden. Any fire release would burn the whole settlement down. Good idea. Metkai gave a thumbs up. Kakashi nodded. If the enemy turned out to be strong and they used fire on the mountain, Mu Yue-sensei would notice. The 3 didn't hesitate. They pushed off with their legs, leapt onto the houses, and ran across the rooftops toward the mountain. Chase! Araka ordered, and jumped onto a nearby roof after them. On the rooftops, both sides traded thrown ninja tools, but the 3 Cloud Shinobi were mediocre, no match for Kakashi and Obito. They focused on dodging shuriken while pursuing. Halfway up the mountain, Obito, Kakashi, and Metkai stopped. Why aren't you running anymore? Baroka clenched his fist, then touched the blood on his face where a shuriken had grazed him. He looked furious. He'd been struck by a group of children who hadn't even matured, insulting. Kakashi quickly assigned roles. I'll handle the one with the sword. Guy, take the bigger Cloud Ninja. Obito, you stop the remaining one. Araka, sword in hand, looked like the leader, probably the strongest. Normally, that would be Metkai's job, but Araka's swordsmanship seemed formidable. Kakashi, skilled with blades himself, took the duel to avoid putting Guy at a disadvantage. Sounds like I'm stuck with the weakest one, Obito grumbled, though his eyes were already fixed on Hiro. With the enemy strength unknown, who faced whom didn't matter too much. At this age, they shouldn't have graduated more than 2 years ago. Finish them quickly. There may be a stronger Konoha ninja nearby, Araka said, tightening his grip on the sword. Small groups like this often had an experienced shinobi operating separately. How long will it take to clear a bunch of brats? 3 minutes. Then we surround and kill their leader, Baroka snarled. Araka nodded and charged with his sword. His teammates followed. Kakashi drew his white-fanged short sword and met Araka blade to blade. Obito flung shuriken to restrict Hiro. Metkai entered his rock-breathing state and charged straight at Baroka. Leaf whirlwind. Metkai shouted and struck with blinding speed. Baroka underestimated him. A careless move and he was kicked by Guy, sent crashing into a tree. Baroka, what are you doing? Don't be careless. Araka barked, furious at his teammate, but he had no time to linger. This child's swordsmanship was sharper than expected and demanded his full attention. Damn it, so fast, Baroka spat, face red with anger rather than embarrassment. He'd boasted before the fight, only to be kicked away before touching his opponent. My youth has only just begun to burn, Metkai laughed, then attacked again. He wasn't even using total concentration breathing, let alone any of the 8 gates. After his first advantage, Baroka realized the Konoha ninja before him was no ordinary kid. They collided, bang, 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 trading blows at close quarters. Baroka looked bigger, more muscular, but Metkai's relentless physical training and rock breathing gave him a massive edge. For a time, they seemed evenly matched. Did this kid start training in the womb? His physique is ridiculous, Baroka thought. He practiced lightning release ninja body technique, which made him stronger than most taijutsu users, yet he couldn't suppress a child under 10. He lost his cool and unleashed chakra, transforming his nature into lightning release. A lightning-charged fist struck for Metkai. Metkai only grinned. He welcomed a stronger opponent, one worth defeating. With a flash of Soru, he evaded Baroka's lightning release and redirected the attack. Baroka's fist smashed into a tree with a thunderous crack, splitting it. Rock breathing, total concentration breathing. 8 gates, gate of opening, open. Metkai roared as he surged into full power, his body and speed exploding. He prepared to finish the fight in a single, devastating strike. 202. The shocked Kumogakure. The sudden surge of chakra from the 8 gates, combined with the enhanced physique from total concentration, breathing, caused Metkai's presence to erupt like a storm. Baroka stared at the exploding aura in disbelief. Impossible. Wasn't that his full strength just now? He thought. Even if Guy had been training since before Baroka was born, it seemed inconceivable he could get any stronger. Reality, however, didn't care for Baroka's doubts. Relying on blistering speed, Metkai closed the distance in an instant and struck. Baroka had no time to react. One moment he saw Guy move, the next Guy stood before him. Bang! One powerful punch sent Baroka flying. How can he be this fast and strong? Baroka wondered as he sailed through the air. He'd mastered the lightning release ninja body technique to bolster his body and was naturally robust as a shinobi from the land of lightning, and yet a child under 10 had smashed him in raw strength. Metkai didn't give him time to brood. After the punch, he leapt up and followed with a whirlwind kick. Boom! The impact hit Baroka with brutal force. His eyes bulged, pupils wide. He shot away like a cannonball, smashing through tree after tree before collapsing unconscious. Resolved, Metkai crowed, giving himself a big thumbs up. While Guy finished his opponent, Obito was all business. Fire release, great fireball technique, he called, forming the signs, throwing out a massive 3-meter fireball aimed at Hiro. Hiro's mouth fell open. First Baroka was flattened by the kid in the green jumpsuit, and now this goggle-wearing runt was spitting huge fire. He sensed trouble. The fireball's flight was slow. Hiro tried to dodge with body flicker. Obito, however, had already tossed a volley of shuriken to cut off that escape route. Seeing the incoming blades, Hiro twisted his course. The fireball slammed into the ground, leaving a scorched crater, but he barely noticed. Obito was charging. Flame breathing, total concentration, breathing, Obito announced, and shoved forward like a battering ram. Hiro had expected a ninja nuddalist who excelled at fire to be weak in taijutsu. So when Obito closed distance and met him palm to fist, Hiro was shocked. Obito's strength and speed matched, even surpassed, his own. The adult found himself steadily being pushed back. This enemy seems a bit weak, Obito muttered to himself. He'd thought his taijutsu average and had planned to open with a surprise from Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson, but now he was the one pressing the advantage. Usually, it was Obito on the receiving end in close combat. This caught him off guard. Hiro heard the insult and flared with fury. To be called weak by a child, he unleashed everything. Abandoning concern for chakra consumption, he activated multiple levels of the lightning release ninja body technique. The lightning release methods demanded enormous chakra. They not only called lightning over the body, but also forced internal chakra to flow, but their destructive output was tremendous. Even so, against Guy's rock breathing fueled by the 8 gates, Hiro still looked small. Obito easily slipped past a strike and seized the opening. He flung 4 kunai lined with flame from his left hand, forming a single hand sign with his right behind his back. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. The flaming kunai tore through the air and pierced toward Hiro. How? He didn't form hand signs. Hiro couldn't dodge in time. Boom! An enormous explosion and a wall of fire swallowed him. When the smoke cleared, Obito stepped forward to assess the aftermath. Hiro was dead. 4 kunai protruded from his chest, his body a tapestry of severe burns. His eyes remained wide open in shock, but there was no breath left to animate them. This technique finally paid off, Obito muttered. He'd practiced the one-handed sign for the Phoenix Sage move for a long time. In practice, it rarely changed much, offering only a slight edge over a standard Great Fireball. Tonight, it done its job. With his assigned enemy down, Obito glanced around. Might Guy had also finished his opponent. Only Kakashi's matchup remained fiercely contested. Araka's sword was crackling with blue electricity. His lightning release blade technique made every slash terrifyingly potent, forcing Kakashi to evade rather than confront. For a time, Kakashi was at a disadvantage. "Kakashi, you're slow. Guy and I are already done," Obito called with a grin, tensing to spring to Kakashi's aid. "Stop the chatter and help me!" Kakashi snapped between parries. He had no intention of handling this alone. Why try to be lone heroes if they could finish it safely together? Might Guy surged in from the side. "Leaf Whirlwind," he shouted, delivering a spinning kick that forced Araka to break his assault and dodge back. Araka's thoughts turned to bad luck and worse odds. He hadn't thought his teammates weak. Rather, Kakashi and the others were just that strong. His teammates were all seasoned chuunin, yet they had been dispatched so quickly. He hardened his resolve. If he was going to fall, he would take at least one Konoha genius with him. Killing one would be a victory. More would be a windfall. After Might Guy's initial strike, Obito's attention snapped to Araka. Seeing Araka make a movement to dodge, Obito lunged forward instinctively. But Araka had already decided, if he couldn't win, he would try to take someone down with him. Rather than evade Obito's blow, he braced and took it, gritting his teeth, then swung his lightning-charged blade at Obito. Obito hadn't expected a counterattack after landing that hit. He had no time to react to the lightning sword's speed. A metal clang rang out as a short blade shot up to intercept Araka's strike. Kakashi had stepped in. At the same time, Might Guy followed up with another rapid kick toward Araka. "Be careful. Don't let him trade blows," Kakashi warned, eyes fixed on Araka. Unlike the less experienced Obito and Might Guy, he had seen this kind of thing before. When an enemy had no escape, they often chose a desperate counterattack, unafraid of death. "Got it. Won't make the same mistake twice." "Thanks," Obito muttered, the last two words tiny but sincere. Saying thank you to Kakashi felt harder than any jutsu, but Kakashi had just saved him from injury, so he said it anyway. Either he was too focused on the fight or he hadn't heard. Kakashi made no reply, remaining concentrated. Araka's strength wasn't negligible, and his willingness to trade injuries made him dangerous, but facing three opponents at once wore him down. He couldn't face Obito's fire release. Great fireball technique head-on, and Kakashi and Guy weren't going to let him slip away. Wounds piled up on Araka. The three of them felt only fatigue and chakra drain in comparison. Leaf Great Whirlwind. Might Guy seized the opening and sent Araka flying. Lightning release, false darkness, Kakashi shouted, unleashing a powerful, lightning-fast long-range attack. A spear of lightning shot after the airborne Araka and punched a charred hole through him. Blood spat, and the fight ended. Kakashi exhaled, a little relieved. Fake darkness was high power and high cost. Struck like that, anyone would be half dead. "Finally finished," he said. Obito let a relaxed smile slip onto his face. He was already picturing how he'd tell Rin about his brilliant mission performance, expose the client's trouble, prod the giant black eagle, take care of the enemy ninja, then help Kakashi finish the last one. He slightly altered the tale in his head to make sure Kakashi also looked impressive. After all, Kakashi had helped him. Kakashi, however, shook his head. "They're not weak. They're just a normal ninja squad." Unlike Obito and Guy, who rarely saw formal teams, Kakashi had faced many ninjas from both their village and others. From his perspective, this team had been strong. Without their Jonin leader, Kakashi estimated the squad could have beaten his old class. Mu Yue, who had been watching from the side, smiled inwardly. Obito and Might Guy were improving. Kakashi was an experienced chuunin. Together, the three could take on an ordinary jonin. "Good work. Your training's paying off," Mu Yue said as he stepped out, smiling. "Mu Yue-sensei?" Obito greeted him cheerfully. Kakashi looked thoughtful for a moment and then asked, "Mu Yue-sensei, were you nearby?" Mu Yue didn't hide it. "I stayed worried you might run into trouble, so I sent a shadow clone to follow you. It seems you handled things yourselves. No need for me to step in." "Heh. Mu Yue-sensei, how did my fire release look?" Obito asked as he approached. Mu Yue ruffled Obito's hair and smiled. "You seized opportunities well. You didn't waste chakra on ineffective jutsu." In the past, Obito had relied on the Great Fireball as his main output and repeatedly lost to Might Guy. Now he used it to force movement, not as an instant solution. The praise satisfied him. Mu Yue treated all his students fairly, and he had equally complimented Guy and Kakashi on their timing and coordination. He sealed the 3 altered bodies into scrolls. This had been a moderately difficult B-rank mission. Mu Yue then filled them in. Those Cloud Ninja were hired by the mayor to all with the giant eagle. Hearing that the mayor had forced villagers to raise money to hire mercenaries so he could seize land and buy the daughters of residents, left them all shocked. Even usually composed, Kakashi was surprised. Why would a mayor plunder his own people? Obito's face twisted with indignation. If I'd known, I wouldn't have killed those Cloud Ninja. They were pawns. This was their job. He doesn't deserve to be called human, Metkai growled. Mu Yue smiled sadly. In this world, keeping normal values was already a struggle. Don't worry about punishing him yourselves, Mu Yue said. Beating him up would be too easy. The earlier plan from those Cloud Ninja had merit. Obito reported what they'd learned about the Black Eagle. It hadn't been harassing the villagers. The mayor's family had provoked it. Mu Yue nodded and told them he intended to stay on the mountain for a while. Since the eagle had eaten his roasted pork that noon, it had been hard for the giant bird to forget the taste. Over the week, Mu Yue and his students trained. The black giant eagle began to bring prey in the evenings and drop it nearby, then look up at Mu Yue with almost pleading eyes. Mu Yue ignored it at first to test its character. Not getting handouts, the eagle kept catching more food until, frustrated, it rubbed its head against Mu Yue and looked at him beseechingly. A 10-meter wingspan bird acting cute was ridiculous, but Mu Yue found the bird's personality pleasing. He had only wanted a mount, not a fighter. Wild 9 beasts weren't suited to high-level ninja battles. Mu Yue tested its understanding and found the eagle reasonably intelligent. It could comprehend basic human commands. Besides building rapport, he used the week to train with his students while a shadow clone gathered information about the mayor's crimes in the village below. On the 8th day, Mu Yue packed to leave and left a shadow clone to handle lingering matters. He tossed a roasted wild boar to the eagle. The bird immediately began to devour it, worried Mu Yue might take it away. Eat slowly, save some for later. You might not get more after we leave, Mu Yue said with a smile. At that, the eagle froze and, in a panic, pushed the remaining meat toward Mu Yue with its claws. Relieved that it wasn't being scolded for overeating, the bird cooed and rubbed its head against him. It wanted to come along. This place wasn't its home. It had escaped here after being injured elsewhere. There were other predators, and when the small villagers tried to capture it with lightning techniques, it had been in danger. Mu Yue's food had also tasted good. Why not follow him? If you want to come with me, just nod, Mu Yue offered. The giant eagle bobbed its head so fast it looked like a pecking chick. With its consent, the contract was sealed quickly. I should give you a name, Mu Yue said, thinking. War Eagle. Obito blurted enthusiastically. The eagle shook its giant head, clearly not a fan. How about Konoha Fierce Eagle? Metkai suggested, laughing and giving a thumbs up. The eagle shoved him with a wing. Blackbird, Kakashi offered flatly, which drew an eye roll from Mu Yue. Let's call him Black Feather, Mu Yue decided. It lacked pretension and was better than Big Black or Blackbird. Black Feather leaned into Mu Yue and seemed pleased. Mu Yue and his students then notified the client that the mission was complete. The Black Eagle would no longer bother Kawakita town. They returned to Konoha. After they left, Mu Yue's second shadow clone went to work. It spread word of the mayor's misdeeds, then posed as a righteous hero and confronted the mayor, dealing with him in a way meant to discourage further abuses. Mu Yue knew this couldn't fix the system. Without one corrupt official, there would always be another. He didn't have the strength to spark a full revolution. But where he could act directly, where he saw injustice he could easily correct, he would not stand aside. The books he'd read in his former life meant nothing if he let that chance pass. 204. Super Intern. After returning to Konoha, Mu Yue took his students straight to the Hokage's office to turn in the mission report. We ran into an unexpected incident on this job. We encountered 3 Cloud Ninja, he told the duty registration ninja, handing over the scroll with the sealed Cloud Shinobi. The last time he'd gone directly to Hiruzen Sarutobi, it had been because the incident was serious, but this time it was only 3 chuunin, no jonin, so there was no need to bother the third Hokage. The registration ninja frowned. "Another unexpected incident?" he said, recalling that not long ago, Mu Yue's team had had a C-rank mission escalate into an A rank. Now this too? They'd only done 2 C-rank missions total, and both had turned into something bigger. It was hard to comment on the team's luck. After a brief assessment, he decided, "For now, we'll classify this as a B-rank mission. I'll send the bodies for examination." He added, "As for the reward, we can only give the mission's base pay for now. Any additional payment will be calculated and issued after the examination." Mu Yue nodded. He wasn't particularly interested in the money. The cultivation medicines in the system's store weren't expensive, and since those became available, his students had been consuming one every half-month. Obito, always eager, piped up to the registration ninja anyway. "We can finish A and B rank missions easily now. From now on, let us try missions above C rank too." The registration ninja looked exasperated. "You want me fired, do you? You're still an intern and not even a genin. Doing C-rank missions is already a special privilege granted by the third Hokage. Other interns can only take D ranks. Don't even think about higher-ranked missions." Rules were rules. If Mu Yue's class succeeded at higher-ranked missions, he wouldn't get the credit. But if something went wrong, it would be the registration ninja's responsibility. Mu Yue apologized lightly to the registration ninja, then smacked Obito on the head. "Don't cause trouble. C-rank missions are fine. Remember, we haven't even officially completed a single C-rank mission yet. One turned A rank, and the other became B rank. Don't waste the opportunity the third Hokage gave us." Kakashi could only stare. They really hadn't properly finished a C-rank mission. One had shifted to A rank, the other to B rank. Obito and Metkai might be the only 2 with an A-rank mission on their record before graduating. No one before them had managed it. A-rank opportunities were rare. "Heh, I was just worried low-level missions would waste your strength, Teacher Mu Yue," Obito said, pretending to be considerate. Mu Yue responded with another sharp tap on Obito's head, which was as effective an answer as any. Outside the Hokage building, Mu Yue divided the mission pay evenly among the 3 students. "No training today. Take the day off. We'll meet as usual tomorrow. If anyone is restless and wants to train, go to the south border forest. I'll be there later." The 3 nodded. Kakashi had intended to go home, but when he saw Obito and Metkai heading for the forest, he changed his mind. Training with Mu Yue was exhausting. Every day, and even during missions, they trained whenever possible, but seeing Obito and Guy going to train extra made Kakashi unwilling to sit out. Obito's real reason for going to the forest was simpler. Rin Nohara would be there, and he wanted to tell her about the mission. Still, if both Metkai and Kakashi were going to train, Obito couldn't be left behind. Kakashi was his current rival, and he didn't want to lose. Metkai laughed, full of energy. "Youth means training. Train more." He gave both of them an enthusiastic thumbs up. The others exchanged glances. Back at home, Mu Yue checked the mission rewards the system reported. Disciple Metkai worked diligently to complete the entrusted mission, gaining a growth reward of chakra plus 200, with an additional reward of chakra plus 100 for being led by the teacher himself. Disciple Uchiha Obito worked diligently to complete the entrusted mission, gaining a growth reward of chakra plus 200, with an additional reward of chakra plus 100 for being led by the teacher himself. Disciple Kashihake worked diligently to complete the entrusted mission, gaining a growth reward of chakra 200, with an additional reward of chakra 100 for being led by the teacher himself. 900 chakra points in total. Mu Yue had expected maybe 400 or 500, so the result was pleasantly surprising. The Cloud Elite from the previous mission had been far stronger, 2 Jonin, 1 an elite with a bloodline limit, and yet that mission only netted 1,350 chakra points overall, just 450 more than this one. He thought about it and realized why. In the previous mission, Mu Yue himself had taken down most of the powerful enemies. The students had only handled 2 shinobi on their own. This time, though the opponents were weaker, only 3 chuunin, Mu Yue had stayed more in the background, and his disciples had done the bulk of the fighting. The more the disciples contribute, the higher their reward. If that was true, no matter what rank mission he took on, the final reward wouldn't be wildly inflated, because in an S-rank mission, Obito and the others would inevitably just be his sidekicks. He checked his own status panel. Name: Hayai Mugetsu, Chakra, 38,300. The increase was good. He was approaching 40,000. By the last unupdated calculation, it had been a full 15.3 small kaka, bringing him several steps closer to his small goal of 50,000 chakra. Mu Yue walked back to his home in the main district. On the way, he used Byakugan briefly to check Minato's house. Minato wasn't there. At his own doorstep, he found a sealed letter protected by a sealing technique. He broke the restriction, removed the seal, and opened the envelope. It was a letter from Minato. He stepped inside and began to read. Minato's letter was short and unremarkable. It boiled down to, "I'm heading out on a mission. Please take care of Kushina's meals." He patted it with thanks and a few courteous phrases, but there was nothing urgent in the text itself. Still, Minato leaving for the front mattered to Mu Yue. It hinted that the probing attacks might be over and the two sides were moving into full engagement. The Third Shinobi World War was expected to last 4 or 5 years. It wasn't likely to spend nearly all that time probing and then cram the fighting into a final, desperate year. Whatever the timeline, Mu Yue had little to fear for now. As a special jonin whose primary duty was teaching, he was rarely sent to the front unless the situation became truly catastrophic. That was the one advantage of being a ninja academy instructor. Teachers were usually spared from frontline deployment. After finishing the letter, Mu Yue set about organizing his training plan. First priority, Obito. His birthday was 21 days away, and Mu Yue hoped to have another perfect-level skill ready as a reward. After Metgai's birthday had passed, Mu Yue had asked Obito directly what he wanted as a gift. Obito, normally talkative, fell quiet and finally said anything from Mu Yue would be fine. That answer didn't surprise Mu Yue, not because Obito was awkward, but because Mu Yue had been very generous to them, and Obito felt embarrassed asking for more. Mu Yue asked anyway to plant the idea that Teacher Mu Yue cares about me and took my birthday seriously, which would help trigger the emotional surge he was counting on later. About 10 days after Obito's birthday, they would have a test reward. Interns still returned to school for exams during their internship. Mu Yue insisted on that rule. This next test would be the last regular exam they could take before the graduation exam, which would only evaluate the three-body technique. Beyond the birthday rewards and exams, the heart of Mu Yue's plan was his students' training, because their progress was his. Obito's breathing technique had advanced through the introductory phase. Mu Yue was preparing special breathing technique training to push him into the next realm, constant state. Constant state meant maintaining a form of total concentration breathing around the clock, even during sleep. It wouldn't be the extreme, all-consuming total concentration breathing, but a slightly moderated version. Achieving that level would cause a qualitative leap in physical ability and greatly amplify the breathing technique's effects. Mu Yue was also searching for ways to help Obito awaken his Sharingan. The benefits were obvious: superior dynamic vision, amplified genjutsu, and a boost to chakra, reasons why the Uchiha often matured quickly into Jonin if they survived. Shisui had awakened his Sharingan on his last birthday after an intense emotional outbreak. Mu Yue didn't expect Obito to do the same so easily. Shisui had reached trust level 3 later than Obito and Metkai, but had been the first to reach 4. His emotional crescendo had triggered the Sharingan's sudden manifestation. Obito, who might already have the highest trust level among Mu Yue's students, had less room left for such an outburst. Mu Yue's plan, therefore, was to increase the difficulty the next time they met enemies so the pressure could provoke the breakthrough he wanted. Metgai's training remained focused on the 8 gates, aiming first to open the 3rd gate. Shisui could join Obito in constant state training for flame breathing and then work on using his Sharingan to enhance haki. Kakashi's priority was to stabilize his condition first. After that, the emphasis would be on lightning breathing, with armament haki as a secondary focus. Satisfied with his plans, Mu Yue headed to the south border forest. He found things exactly as usual, all 5 students training in neat formation. He was a little surprised to see them so lined up. Obito, who trained hard but liked to rest when he could, didn't usually show this kind of disciplined zeal. "Yo, you all seem unusually motivated today," Mu Yue said with a smile. Metkai flashed a grin and gave a thumbs up. Kakashi kept moving through his breathing technique forms in silence. Obito forced a smile to show he agreed. Mu Yue started the session. Since Metkai and Obito hadn't yet mastered yin-release nature transformation, they hadn't begun formal armament haki training. Obito's proficiency in yin-release was around 70 points. Victory was in sight, while Metkai lagged behind at only the 20s and needed much more work. Through relentless effort, Kakashi's lightning-breathing proficiency had finally broken through 10 points. He could now use breathing to enhance his physical abilities in a real, if moderate, way. Shisui had also made progress with armament haki. 20 days of hard training had brought him to 12 points, and he was beginning to get a feel for it. Rin Nohara had improved her chakra control enough to master the basics of the mystical palm technique. Her explosive power had increased, and her study of the technique was back on track. To further boost Rin's strength, Mu Yue planned to develop a new breathing technique for her. He already knew 3 major breathing techniques, one of them at perfect level, so designing another technique of similar strength was within reach. He lacked the medical ninjutsu background to create a purely medical breathing technique, but his water-release nature transformation proficiency exceeded 7,000, so he could develop a water-breathing approach tailored to Rin, whose innate nature was water. With water breathing combined with the mystical palm technique, Rin would be far harder to capture in wartime. When training ended, Obito sprinted over to Rin to share his mission experiences. "Rin, you wouldn't believe how amazing our missions were. 2 C-rank jobs, one turned into an A rank, and the other into a B rank. We ran into some really strong enemies," he said, bursting to tell the story. He described with dramatic flair how he'd taken down powerful opponents. Rin laughed and applauded, flattering him and praising his deeds. "That's exciting. You 3 are incredible, just like when the teachers tell mission stories." "Heh, it's because Teacher Mu Yue is amazing. Other interns probably only get odd jobs in the village," Obito said smugly, basking in Rin's approval. Kakashi had been about to leave, but stopped when he heard them, lingering until Obito finished. If Obito had been embellishing the tale, he'd have mentioned nearly getting hurt from carelessness, but today his account was largely the truth. 206. Start regular practice. Every time a breathing technique reaches a new level, it undergoes a qualitative change. The next stage after skillful use of total concentration breathing is to maintain it continuously, keeping your body in a total concentration breathing state every single minute and second. Mu Yue began leading Shisui and Obito in constant state training of the breathing technique. In the world of Demon Slayer, mastering the constant state is the foundation for becoming a Hashira. It's a crucial regimen that greatly enhances physical ability. The Hokage-fied constant state of the breathing technique was equally important. If you could master the constant state, your nature transformation acceleration would become permanent. Your nature transformation would be inherently stronger than normal, and your physical capabilities would be greatly boosted. Mu Yue's ever-stronger body owed a lot to rock breathing's constant state. All day? Maintain total concentration breathing every moment? I'd drop dead from exhaustion, Obito protested, picturing how draining total concentration breathing felt. Shisui looked at Mu Yue with the same puzzled expression. How could such an explosive breathing method be sustained 24 hours a day? It's not as impossible as you think. You get there with practice, Mu Yue said, smiling. Given Obito's compatibility with flame breathing, the constant state shouldn't be a problem for him. But right now, I can only hold total concentration breathing for 4 minutes, Obito said. He imagined Mu Yue's more practice, meaning years, maybe more than 10. Mu Yue shook his head. The constant state doesn't require you to be at maximum output every moment. It's about sustained concentration. If your peak breathing boosts you by 100 for the constant state, you only need 70 or 80. So, wouldn't that mean not enough chakra? Obito asked. Native breathing techniques in Naruto reach their fullest effect when chakra is added. When you aren't fighting, you can choose not to add chakra or keep chakra output to a minimum. There will be specific drills for that, Mu Yue replied. Ideally, you'd add chakra for more enhancement and to avoid mid-combat adjustments, but the disciples have limited chakra for now. They could only practice a beggar version of the constant state. With Mu Yue's explanation, Shisui finally grasped the point. The constant state raises the practical upper limit of your breathing technique. If you can maintain an 80% output all day, your true limit won't stay at 100, it could increase several times. First, everyone enter the total concentration breathing state without using chakra, Mu Yue instructed, and then led his students through formal constant state practice. Both Obito and Shisui went into total concentration breathing as told. Slap! Mu Yue smacked Obito on the head, then withdrew his hand. Don't use chakra. Mu Yue had seen Obito subconsciously using chakra with his Byakugan while performing the breathing technique. Obito scratched his head sheepishly. Heh, I'm used to it. I just did it without thinking. When total concentration breathing is normally used, it's for one-shot victories, so people instinctively push it to the limit. That made it hard to maintain at a lower, continuous level. Rumble. A loud noise cut through the air. Obito and Shisui looked over to see Mu Yue's shadow clone dragging several stones of different sizes toward them. The smallest was about Obito's height. The largest towered over 3 meters. All right, let's begin. Hold these stones and do squats until you can no longer maintain total concentration breathing, Mu Yue said with a chuckle. That's how it starts? Obito gaped. He remembered that initial breathing technique training had been simple breathing exercises. Constant state training was brutal from the first set. Shisui stepped forward calmly, tested each stone, and chose one about Obito's height, then lifted it and began squatting. Even without chakra, in total concentration breathing, provided a significant boost to strength, making the stone manageable. Seeing Shisui start, Obito picked a slightly larger stone, the smallest was already taken, and began his reps. At first, the weight felt lighter than Obito expected, but after 5 minutes, he began straining. Sustaining total concentration breathing was not only physically taxing, it demanded intense mental focus. At 5.5 minutes, Obito set the stone down. Shisui lasted half a minute less, setting his down at 5 minutes. You held total concentration breathing for 5.5 minutes. See, you can last longer than you thought, Mu Yue praised, and Obito's fatigue lifted a bit. He laughed like a relieved child. Mu Yue always gave well-timed encouragement. Shisui, you did well too. You're a bit younger, so you'll have a slight disadvantage, Mu Yue said, ruffling Shisui's hair. Shisui managed a small smile. Mu Yue didn't give them time to rest. 3 minutes later, he had them re-enter the breathing technique state and told them to unleash everything their breathing could provide. Next is running. Don't stop until you can no longer maintain the breathing technique, he instructed. The purpose of constant state training was to make the body remember the breathing technique, to make total concentration breathing something you could maintain all day, even while asleep. The training's intensity reflected that aim. It was nothing like beginner drills. Mu Yue's access to training elixirs made this pace possible. Without them, he might have slowed things down. The intensity rivaled, even exceeded, Metkai's legendary regimens. By the time they finished, Obito's legs were jelly. Dizziness clouded his senses, directions blurred. He felt as if his body no longer belonged to him, like his soul might float away at any moment. So tired, Obito breathed, peshed from deep inside. Compared to today's session, all his prior training felt trivial. He had lost count of how many times he'd cycled through total concentration breathing, and by the end, he couldn't even tell whether he was in his normal breathing state or in total concentration breathing. Weighted squats, weighted push-ups, running, combined with the requirement to maintain total concentration breathing, had made every basic exercise unbearably draining. Even Shisui's composed face showed clear fatigue. Mu Yue smiled faintly, but said nothing. This was only the beginning. These were the introductory sessions. Far more demanding strengthening training awaited them. Yesterday's mission was really dangerous. If it weren't for your support, Longxian, I would have been in trouble. Haha, we're comrades, aren't we? I'm not like Kakashi, who values missions over his teammates. Speaking of Kakashi, I heard his squad suffered heavy losses on a mission. Only the Jonin instructor and he survived. How tragic. Being on a team with that guy brings nothing but bad luck. Good thing we left early, otherwise we might have ended up the same. Kakashi was dragging himself home after training when he heard the voices. They snapped him out of the breathing exercises still on his mind. He didn't hide, he just kept walking. The two former teammates saw him approach and went silent at once. Cough, cough, Kakashi, good evening, one of them offered, uncertain if Kakashi had heard them. Kakashi nodded with a blank expression. Good evening, he replied, and continued toward his house. How awkward. Do you think he heard us? Doesn't matter. He probably doesn't have a very good impression of us anyway. Kakashi, with his keen senses, overheard the murmurs for a while longer, but they no longer held his attention. He wasn't angry. If he'd let gossip about him make him furious, he would have exploded with rage years ago when his father killed himself. Back then he had felt stares on every street. And they weren't entirely wrong. On a mission, Kakashi's priority had always been the mission itself. If teammates were injured, he still put the mission first. Since joining Mu Yue, Kakashi hadn't had much time to ponder what made a proper ninja. Mu Yue's training was relentless, advanced ninjutsu like fake darkness and purple lightning, secret techniques like lightning breathing and armament haki. Between the training and dealing with Obito's constant provocations, there was little energy left for reflection. Still, his former teammates' words nudged at him again. Mission, ninja, comrades. My father was criticized because he failed a mission, Kakashi thought. So only a ninja who could finish missions was a good ninja. Then he shook his head, remembering Mu Yue's words. Konoha White Fang upheld his ninja way and was not a failed ninja. Mu Yue was more than strong. He was the kind of teacher Kakashi had never had. Kakashi trusted him. That evening he ate and kept turning the contradictions over in his head until 11. He lay awake for a long time, exhausted but unable to sleep. When he finally woke to bright sunlight, he realized he was late. He washed, shoved whatever food he could find into his mouth, and sprinted to the south border forest. The others were already training. Obito and Shisui were sweating through total concentration breathing runs. Might Guy fussed over yin release nature transformation. Rin had gutted fish and chopped through trees. Obito happened to pass Kakashi. Seeing him late, his tired face brightened. Yo, Kakashi? Why are you 2.5 hours late today? Obito laughed. Did you go help some old people? The teasing seemed to restore his energy. Usually Kakashi was the one lecturing the latecomer. This time the roles had reversed. I just overslept, Kakashi said flatly and went to Mu Yue. Shh, he's late and still arrogant, Obito mumbled and pushed himself harder. Mu Yue-sensei, I apologize. I didn't sleep well last night, Kakashi said. It's all right. Being late once in a while happens. Accidents occur, Mu Yue answered with a smile. Let's start training. Kakashi tried to focus on lightning breathing under Mu Yue's guidance, but he couldn't find the right rhythm. The morning felt wasted. Armament haki practice in the afternoon was worse. His mind wouldn't settle. Mu Yue noticed. Kakashi, your mind is troubled, he said. Armament haki was yin release and relied on mental stability. If the mind wasn't right, progress would be slow. I'm sorry, Mu Yue-sensei. I'm not in a good state today. I'll try to adjust tomorrow, Kakashi said, ashamed. Mu Yue's steady calm was a comfort. Keep working. Believe in yourself, Mu Yue told him gently. The warmth steadied Kakashi enough that he added extra training that night, practicing breathing in his yard. He still couldn't find the feeling. At 10 he showered and tried to sleep, but his thoughts returned. His father's criticism, teammates' whispers, Obito's teasing, Mu Yue's reassurances. 2 in the morning he checked the time and sighed. He tried the old trick of telling himself to sleep. Sleep, sleep. But it didn't work. The next day, sun high in the sky, he was late again. He rushed, washed, ate, and arrived at the forest breathless. Obito eyed him suspiciously. You're 2.5 hours late again. You weren't up all night training, were you? No, Kakashi answered simply and went to Mu Yue to explain. I had insomnia again last night. Is something wrong with your body? Mu Yue asked with concern. Thanks for asking. I'm fine. I've just been thinking too much lately, Kakashi admitted. Your body matters most. If something's wrong, tell me. It's never a bother for a teacher, Mu Yue said, patting his shoulder. A little relief spread through Kakashi. He made some progress in the morning's breathing practice. Maybe the extra night work helped, but armament hockey eluded him again. After training, he bought an alarm clock. He couldn't be late again. He didn't train that night and forced himself to bed at 8, reasoning that if he typically couldn't fall asleep for hours, an earlier start would help. But once he lay down, his mind spun worse than ever. He imagined scenarios where Metkai or Obito faced danger, and he had to choose between rescuing them or completing a mission. He opened his eyes on a sound, ding, 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 and jolted up, thinking Mu Yue was calling. He finished his morning routine with bleary eyes and headed to the forest. He arrived on time that day. You weren't late today, Obito remarked astonished. Don't compare me to you, Kakashi said coolly. My lateness is always for helping old people. I'd never be late because I slept in, Obito retorted. Despite being punctual, lack of sleep dulled Kakashi's training. Mu Yue saw the shadows returning. He understood better than anyone. Kakashi had been 7 when Konoha White Fang killed himself. For a child, a beloved father's suicide under public condemnation could leave deep, recurring wounds. This requires strong medicine to cure, Mu Yue thought. Gentle encouragement alone wouldn't be enough. Kakashi needed to face something that would shake him out of his retreat and let him reconnect with the human warmth of his comrades. Kakashi, why have you become so weak? This little training tires you out. If you trained like I do, it'd probably kill you, Obito teased, only half joking. I'm just not in good shape, Kakashi admitted, though the fatigue in his eyes betrayed him. Come back with me later. I'll make you some conditioning food, Mu Yue offered. Obito perked up at the prospect of a free meal. He began to plead his case until Mu Yue thwacked his head, ruffled his hair, and said, You could have just said you wanted to eat together. I want to eat together, Obito pouted, rubbing his head. Everyone come along, Mu Yue said, and all agreed. Most needed to inform their families first, but Kakashi and Shisui stayed. Dinner was its usual mixture of noise and teasing. Obito and Kakashi bickered, Obito calling Kakashi weak, Kakashi ridiculing Obito's performance on theory tests. Rin Nohara, smiling, tried to mediate. Don't look at him like that. He actually cares about you. Yesterday he even asked me if you were sick, said a genius like you would never oversleep without a reason. Kakashi was startled. Obito had called him a genius? The idea made him doubt its truth. Obito's face went red, and he insisted Rin must be mistaken. Still, Kakashi felt a tug of something else. Maybe Obito did care. Your youth hasn't been as passionate lately, Metkai declared with mock gravity. Kakashi didn't know how to respond. He was annoyed at himself for letting these thoughts derail his training. After the others left, Mu Yue called Kakashi aside. Slell, eat at my place tonight. I have something to talk to you about. Kakashi hesitated, then nodded. Share your troubles with me if you don't mind. I may not be able to solve them, but talking helps, Mu Yue said as they sat in the living room. Kakashi was quiet for a long while, then spoke. Teacher Mu Yue, do you really believe Konoha White Fang was a qualified ninja, not a failure? Mu Yue met his gaze steadily. No matter how many times you ask, my answer is the same. Konoha White Fang was a qualified ninja who upheld his ninja way. Then why did everyone condemn him, even the comrades he saved? Kakashi asked. The question was the core of his turmoil. He couldn't reconcile his father's death. Because his way conflicted with the village's rules, Mu Yue said. The village must prioritize mission success and its own interests. A ninja who completes missions is a good ninja to them. Konoha White Fang was different. For him, the lives of his comrades mattered more than any mission. Right and wrong are subjective, Mu Yue continued. For him, saving comrades was right. Others judged based on their own priorities. He drew criticism not just because the mission failed, but because he was Konoha White Fang, famous and straightforward. If it had been someone else, the narrative could have been different. The more fame you have, the heavier the blame you might bear. Kakashi felt Mu Yue's words land hard. Reality is harsher than we imagine, Mu Yue admitted, but you don't need to overthink it. I believe that if he could do it again, Konoha White Fang would still save his teammates first, then try to complete the mission. As long as your conscience is clear, hold to your beliefs. Did his father commit suicide because of public pressure? Mu Yue didn't think so. He believed the real blow was that his father's beliefs had collapsed. That night, unexpectedly, Kakashi slept well. Mu Yue had a single bed where he lived alone. He offered it to Kakashi. "You're still young. It shouldn't be crowded," Mu Yue said, and when Kakashi climbed into the bed, the teacher's presence felt oddly calming. It was the first time Kakashi had slept beside anyone outside his family, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a peace that let him fall asleep easily. 208. Increased trust level. Kakashi woke in the early morning to a pleasant smell. It wasn't an alarm or his body clock. It was breakfast. He lay there for a moment, half asleep, wondering where the aroma had come from. When he opened his eyes and saw the unfamiliar ceiling, he remembered he hadn't gone home last night. He'd stayed at Mu Yue's place. He felt unusually light and energetic after a good night's sleep. Downstairs on the first floor, Mu Yue met him with a smile and a tray of breakfast. "You're awake. I just finished. Come and eat." "Thanks. I appreciate it," Kakashi said, taking a seat. Mu Yue had made more than enough. Shiny red bean rice, steaming miso soup, thick Japanese omelet, and grilled fish. When Kakashi sat, he automatically said the old phrase that announces a meal to others, an odd thing to have said in years when he usually ate alone. For a moment, the tangle of thoughts in his head cleared. Everything tasted incredible. By the time the dishes were gone and the miso soup finished steaming, a warm, pleasant fullness spread through him. He glanced at the empty plates and realized he'd eaten far more than he'd intended. Disciple Kakashi Hadake's trust level has increased. Current trust level 3. Mu Yue chuckled as he stacked plates. "Looks like you really like my cooking." "Kai-sensei, it's amazing," Kakashi said earnestly. If anyone could argue Mu Yue didn't cook better than anyone else, Kakashi would object. It was practically Genjutsu-level cuisine. Feeling a bit awkward about being treated so well, he stood. "I'll help clean up." "I'll trouble you then," Mu Yue said, smiling. Accepting help made them closer. It deepened trust. After they washed the dishes, Mu Yue led them to the south border forest for training. The treatment had done its work. Kakashi showed no signs of the mental fog or fatigue from yesterday. He moved and fought as if he were back to normal. "You called me weak because I couldn't stand after one day of training?" Kakashi said, charging at Obito during a sparring session. You have no idea how tiring total concentration breathing is," Obito muttered, winded and a little out of breath. "Even so, it's training. Can't you be tougher?" Kakashi fired back, trying to settle all the grudges of the past few days at once. Obito rolled his eyes and flopped to the ground, exasperated by someone who couldn't understand the technique's demands. Mu Yue nodded inwardly. If Kakashi had the energy to bicker, he was recovering. "Everyone, get a good rest tonight. We have a mission tomorrow," Mu Yue announced. He had originally planned to keep training until Obito's birthday passed, but Kakashi's condition couldn't be fixed inside the village alone. He needed outside opportunities. A single mission wouldn't fix everything. There had already been 2 consecutive accidents, and Mu Yue didn't expect a miracle, but more missions would mean more chances to find whatever he needed. "Another mission," Obito said, eyes lighting up as he struggled to his feet. Every mission was a future boast to Rin and ammo to show off at the academy. "I've done A and B rank missions." He imagined their jealous faces already. "Everyone, be careful," Rin Nohara said softly. "Don't worry, Rin. With Mu Yue-sensei and me here, nothing will happen," Obito said, puffing up. "Do you think I'm lacking in youth? When it's needed, I will protect my comrades with the most passionate youth," Metkai declared, grinning with his bright white teeth. "Then with Mu Yue-sensei, me and Guy, there will definitely be no problems," Obito amended. Guy's presence these days was intimidating. Aside from someone like Shisui flashing his Sharingan, merely seeing Guy made people uneasy. Kakashi let out a dry, unamused sound. "Mu Yue-sensei and Guy are reliable," Kakashi said when Obito prodded him. "But you, if I hadn't supported you on the last mission, you'd have been badly hurt. You're reckless and miss so much in a fight, you didn't even notice your opponent trading blows." "That only happened because I went to help." Obito shot back, full throttle, dredging up the time Kakashi had been inactive for 10 minutes on a previous mission. "You're energetic. Save some for tomorrow," Mu Yue said, smiling and putting a stop to their bickering. The two paused, at least for the moment. The next morning, Mu Yue took his team to the Hokage building to pick up a mission. "Any C-rank missions in the Land of Rivers today?" he asked the registration clerk. The war between Kumogakure and Sunagakure had destabilized a number of places, opening up more smaller assignments. The Land of Rivers, being affected, had opportunities that weren't as dangerous as the front lines in the grass country, where Iwa and Konoha were clashing, and most tasks had become war missions. Missions Mu Yue's team, with interns along, couldn't accept. "Land of Rivers, let me see," the registration ninja said, flipping through the list. "There's one to subdue bandits near Sanchuan town, and another to escort a client back to the capital of the Land of Rivers. 209, Kakashi, absolutely impossible. Then let's take the mission to subjugate the bandits in Sanchuan town," Mu Yue said after a moment's thought. He had looked over the map of the Land of Rivers. Compared to the capital, Sanchuan town lay closer to the Land of Wind, which made encountering opportunities more likely. The registration ninja quickly finished the paperwork and handed Mu Yue a slip of paper. Obito leaned over curiously to read it. "It's that country from the last mission again," he said. "What's wrong? Don't you like the Land of Rivers?" Mu Yue asked as he pocketed the documents. Obito ran his hand through his hair. "It's not that I dislike it exactly. It's just the mayor from our last mission left a terrible impression on me." He shivered at the memory. That mayor had disgusted him. Obito couldn't understand how someone could be so rotten. Wouldn't it be better if people got along? People like that should be dealt with by the iron fist of youth. Metkai chimed in. He, too, remembered the mayor vividly. It had been the first time he saw how cruel someone could be. Compared to what that mayor had done, even those who mocked his father seemed minor. "Not liking people like that is normal. I don't like them either," Mu Yue said with a smile, patting both of their heads as he led his disciples out of the Hokage building. He didn't mention the one thing that should have been obvious. In a feudal world, there would certainly be plenty of unpleasant people. Obito thought they were rare only because he'd grown up in Konoha. The village's exalted status and peaceful atmosphere had given him that misconception. "Does anyone need to go back for anything? If so, hurry. Otherwise, we'll depart right away," Mu Yue asked. All three disciples shook their heads. Mu Yue had reminded them the day before, and they'd packed their belongings already. "Then let's leave. The sooner we finish the mission, the sooner we can return," he said. "Is there no client this time?" Obito asked. "Every mission has a client. This time the client isn't in Konoha, he's in the Land of Rivers," Mu Yue explained. "Except for escort missions, where the client has to be in Konoha, a client can be anywhere as long as the fee is paid." Mu Yue liked that. No client waiting around would let them travel faster. Let's go. I'm looking forward to it. I wonder what sort of enemies we'll meet. We won't run into the Raikage or the Tsuchikage, will we? Kidding." On his third mission, Obito's imagination ran wild. Kakashi's mouth twitched. They were going to subjugate bandits, not attack the Hidden Cloud or Iwagakure. Meeting the Raikage or the Tsuchikage, or even the Six-Path Sage, was ridiculous. Even in your dreams, try to be a little more reasonable. "We're dealing with bandits, not villages of ninja," Kakashi said. "Why should dreams be reasonable?" "I said I was kidding," Obito shot back. "Besides, it's normal to run into ninja on a mission, right? Last time we were driving off wild beasts and we still ran into ninja." Kakashi had no reply. It was not normal to encounter ninja on a C-rank mission, but after Obito's first 2 C-rank missions producing unexpected events, this kind of thinking wasn't surprising. "You'll see once we finish this mission. The first 2 times were bad luck. There's no way we'll run into ninja again," Kakashi said, hoping it was true. "My friend, don't be so sure," Metkai said, stroking his chin. "Didn't Mu Yue-sensei say it's wartime? Accidents are more likely." Mu Yue had a different priority: training. Travel at full speed. "Before we leave the Land of Fire, everyone use your breathing technique. If you can do total concentration breathing, use that," he said with a smile. For Mu Yue, taking a C-rank mission was mainly a change of scenery for his disciples' training. The necessary exercises would not be skipped. "Kakashi, let's race. Who can run faster and farther?" Obito challenged. He was confident, His total concentration breathing was the strongest among the disciples, and Kakashi had only recently learned the breathing technique. No interest, Kakashi answered coolly. He saw through Obito's provocation. Burning youth needs more competition. Obito, I'm in. Might Guy boomed. Mu Yue-sensei, will you be our referee? Obito asked. Although Obito couldn't bait Kakashi into the competition, beating Guy, who had once defeated Kakashi, felt like a way to prove something. He'd wanted to spar with Kakashi a few days ago, but Mu Yue had just begun teaching Constant State. Obito wanted to finish that training and grow stronger before challenging Kakashi outright. Mu Yue nodded and counted down. Ready. 3, 2, 1, go. Rock breathing. Total concentration breathing. Might Guy shouted. Flame breathing. Total concentration breathing. Obito yelled. Both of them exploded forward like cannonballs. Kakashi didn't join the contest, but he still used his breathing technique quietly and sprinted at top speed. Obito had a slight lead at the start, but was quickly overtaken and left behind by Might Guy. Damn, I forgot Guy's rock breathing boosts physical power so much, Obito panted as Might Guy pulled away. He tried to push himself into the same state he used for practicing Constant State to close the gap. I need to learn lightning breathing fast. I can't fall that far behind, Kakashi thought as he watched them. Ugh! Huff! Miscalculated. Next time I'll challenge you to a fire release contest, Guy, Obito said between breaths. Despite his effort, he couldn't catch Guy. Guy's stamina was simply superior. That might take a while, Guy laughed heartily. I don't know fire release at all. After they left the land of fire, Mu Yue stopped the extreme training. His own strength could handle most situations, but it was better to be cautious. Sanchuan Town sat in the western reaches of the land of rivers. As Mu Yue led his students toward it, the change in scenery was obvious. The vegetation thinned out, and the dense forests that dominated the land of fire were gone. The landscape here is different, Obito remarked with interest. He'd grown used to the endless green of the land of fire, so this northern stretch of the land of rivers felt new to him. If we head a little farther west, we'll even hit desert, Mu Yue said with a smile. But first, we finish the mission. The idea of visiting a desert just for the view sounded pleasant enough to them all. Great, finish the mission, then sightseeing, Obito said, visibly excited. He wished he could do A-rank missions every day, but he didn't have the money. Cameras weren't cheap either, and though he'd earned some from missions since becoming an intern, most of it was already promised. Gifts for teacher Mu Yue and help for his grandmother left little for luxuries. Still, the thought of taking pictures for Rin Nohara back in Konoha had him daydreaming. Mu Yue led them to the client in Sanchuan Town for details. The man was in his 40s, and he explained that the mission was funded by a local collection. Most of the sponsors were Sanchuan townspeople and residents of nearby villages. Bandits have been raiding our town and the area around Sia Mountain for months, the man said, sighing. But their movements are strange. We brought in samurai last time, and they couldn't find them, returned with nothing. Don't worry, Obito blurted. We ninja are stronger than samurai. We'll handle them. The client studied the boy carefully and shook his head inwardly. Obito looked like a kid, naive and unreliable. Of the group, only the adult Mu Yue and the quiet, masked child looked truly capable. We'll take care of it quickly, Mu Yue said with a calm smile. To him, a bandit group was nothing. No matter how well they hid, could they escape his Byakugan? Please, ninja sirs, resolve it as soon as you can, the client begged. We're okay here, but the villages near Sia Mountain live in fear every day. Following the man's directions, Mu Yue and the others headed for Sia Mountain, not far from Sanchuan Town. The mountain towered higher and looked more treacherous than the one near Kawakita Town they'd visited before. But to trained ninja, it was no real obstacle. Chakra could carry them across walls and ceilings. They found signs of life on the mountain, but no one to be seen. Maybe the bandits went raiding somewhere else today? Might Guy scanned the area, puzzled. They're here, but all hidden, Mu Yue said. These bandits had one advantage. They'd apparently gotten word and scattered into hiding. If ordinary ninja without tracking tools or summons had arrived, the bandits might indeed have vanished. They were unlucky this time. Mu Yue hadn't stopped using his Byakugan. He'd simply kept it operating quietly the whole climb. Something's off. How could they disappear so fast? Kakashi noted. If they'd fled in haste, there should be signs. I've found some people. Let's capture them and ask, Mu Yue said. They tracked and captured pockets of bandits. Some tried to use Obito and Kakashi, who looked like children, as hostages to threaten Mu Yue. Metkai disarmed a few with a furious kick that knocked teeth out. Obito set others on edge by flicking a flame at them. Under pressure, Mu Yue questioned them bluntly. Who's your leader? Where are the others hiding? He demanded. The bandits exchanged glances and clammed up. Say nothing, and I'll feed you fireballs, Obito threatened, flames already curling in his palm. Mu Yue opted to split them up. We'll interrogate separately. Someone will crack. He divided the captured bandits into 6 groups. His 3 students each took one. Mu Yue created 2 shadow clones so that the 3 remaining groups could be questioned simultaneously. One bandit remained stubborn. We won't betray our brothers, he snarled. At that moment, one of Mu Yue's shadow clones stepped forward and said, The people on my side have already confessed. There are also 4 hiding in a secret passage in the cave. The resolute bandit froze. He knew that mention of a cave's secret passage meant the claim could be true. Panic took him, and he blurted, All right, I'll tell you. Spare my life. There are 4 in the cave's secret passage, and... He hurried through every hiding place he knew, speaking quickly lest he be cut off. Mu Yue's face showed no surprise. His clone's information had been planned. He'd suspected that location and had been waiting for this reaction. But the bandit's next confession mattered more. Some villagers are working with us, passing messages so we can time raids and avoid being surrounded. Mu Yue paused. It wasn't unusual for desperate villagers to turn to banditry when times were hard, but he didn't take the claim at face value. He repeated the method across the other captives, and the reports matched. The first bandit had not lied. After sorting through the testimonies, Mu Yue made them accuse one another to separate truth from lies. Those whose crimes were relatively light and who gave useful information could be spared. In the end, Mu Yue executed most of the hardened bandits on the spot and kept the rest alive to help identify the collaborators in nearby villages. They rounded up those collaborators and handed them over to the client. That's the situation. What you do with them is up to you, Mu Yue told the grateful man. Thank you so much, the client said, overwhelmed. He hadn't expected the problem to be resolved so swiftly. As they left Sanchuan town, Obito fumed about the cruelty of the bandits. They have hands and feet and choose to rob and hurt people instead of working. His righteous anger after watching Mu Yue peel apart the gang was plain. Anger like this calls for training, Mu Yue replied, gazing up at the sky. If you want to make the world better, you need strength. They headed west until the trees gave way and the sand spread out, endless, golden dunes under a bright blue sky. Obito stared, awed. So much sand, it's incredible. Grabbing a handful, he felt the surprising heat and dared Metkai and Kakashi to put their hands in. They yelped and pulled away, complaining about the burn. As Mu Yue considered whether to have the students train in the desert for a few days before returning, a swirl of yellow dust caught his eye, mist rising from the sand and someone running fast across the dunes. He activated his Byakugan to see properly. Seeing who it was made Mu Yue do a double take. Obito's words, odd as they sometimes were, had been right. The Raikage had indeed come. Only it wasn't the current Raikage, it was the one who would be Raikage in the future. Chapter 211, The AB Team That Hasn't Grown Up Yet. Name A Chakra, 87,000 Potential, S. Skills, Lightning Release Chakra Mode, Mastery, 5,000, 15,000. Lightning Release Chakra Nature Transformation, 4,500, 15,000. Lightning Style Kilchio Dance, Mastery. Without a doubt, the 4th Raikage A in this panel was no longer a mere prodigy. He was a fully grown, powerful shinobi. His mastery of Lightning Release Chakra Mode and multiple master-level body techniques placed him among the strongest figures Mu Yue had seen. Mu Yue wasn't surprised to find A here. The 4th Raikage was several years older than Minato and had trained longer. He quickly scanned the panels of the others alongside A. As the son of the 3rd Raikage, A wouldn't be on the battlefield alone. Name, Killer Bee Chakra. 23,000 Potential, S. Skills. Lightning Release Chakra Nature Transformation, Mastery, 100/15,000. Supersonic lightning release sword, proficient. Lariat, proficient. Killer B still looked young, 13 or 14, and was the youngest in the group. According to the panel, he hadn't become the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki yet. Even so, his stats showed a talent that couldn't be dismissed. With or without the Eight-Tails, B would grow into a formidable shinobi. Name, Berkeley Chakra, 7,100. Skills, Lightning Release Chakra, Nature Transformation, Mastery. Name, Motomu Chakra, 6,500. Skills, Chakra Perception, Mastery. Lightning Release Chakra, Nature Transformation, Proficient. Alongside them were 2 Jonin Mu Yue didn't recognize and 2 chuunin with chakra around 4,000. If the leader had been the third Raikage, Mu Yue would have had no hesitation. He'd have summoned his team and fled. But facing the younger Ai, who hadn't yet reached his peak, changed things. Mu Yue didn't feel fear. Rather, he felt a touch of excitement. Because Killer B was still a child and not yet the Eight-Tails host, the A-B team was effectively just A carrying B. A's chakra was more than double Mu Yue's, but Mu Yue had other advantages, many mastered techniques, perfect lightning breathing, perfect armament hockey, and an unusually high level of skill proficiency. He'd seen many people with more chakra than him, but none with greater command of their skills. Mu Yue made a quick decision. He wanted this younger Raikage as an opponent to gain combat experience and to put pressure on his own disciples. Quick, use the transformation technique. Pretend to be Hidden Sand Nin, he ordered, canceling his Byakugan and taking off his glasses. He transformed into Aizen, dressed in a Hidden Sand uniform, and put on black-framed glasses. He was confident he could escape if necessary, but not confident he could wipe out the squad led by A. Concealing his identity was essential. Out of trust in their teacher, the 3 disciples complied. Their faces shifted casually, and their headbands and uniforms were all from the hidden sand. Then Mu Yue led them east, across the open desert. It was too exposed to make a clean escape. They've detected us. Their chakra is converging fast, Motomu reported after sensing Mu Yue's movements. Thinking of running? No chance. This is perfect for B to practice, the 4th Raikage said calmly, glancing at Killer B. B, hurry up with your training. Your lariat is lagging behind mine. I'll grow up fast so I can cooperate with you, big brother. I'll make the enemy ninjas admire us, then they'll all surrender to Kumogakure. Killer B shouted with enthusiasm. Ha ha ha, I laughed with satisfaction. How strange, their speed just spiked, Motomu observed. Mu Yue and his group had suddenly accelerated again. I'll go stop them first, I said indifferently. No matter how fast they were, they couldn't outrun him. Zzz! A's sturdy form crackled with lightning as he activated Lightning Release Chakra mode. The blue lightning instantly covered him like a suit of armor. He took a single step and vanished from Killer B and the others. Mu Yue scooped his disciples up and sprinted. In one burst, they ched the nearest forest. Go, into the woods first, Mu Yue said, setting his disciples down. None of you are to leave. A blue streak sliced through the air like a bolt of lightning, parallel to the ground. What the? Obito couldn't see Ai's body at all. He only felt a bolt of lightning rush past him. Kakashi threw a few shuriken at the flash, but they all missed. The speed was too extreme. The bolt passed over the group and stopped at the edge of the forest. A dispelled his lightning release chakra mode and looked around, a little disappointed. He had memorized the faces of powerful hidden sand shinobi. None of them were present. So fast! Kakashi exclaimed when I suddenly stood before them. The sturdy young man with dark skin and pale yellow hair demanded respect. That speed, Kakashi had only ever felt anything like it from Mu Yue. For a moment, he couldn't tell who was faster, Mu Yue or this newcomer. Both moved beyond his comprehension. Tell me your mission, and I'll leave you as a complete corpse, I said coldly. Who's going to tell you? If you've got the guts, come on. Obito snapped, annoyed. With teacher Mu Yue here, he wasn't ready to believe death was imminent. Mu Yue looked at his disciples and signaled them to fall in line behind him. A was not like the enemies they'd faced before. He was fast and dangerous. You all look very confident, Mu Yue said with a smile. Overconfidence can be costly. I've got the means to back this up. A glanced to the distance. Killer B and the others were closing in, but A's tone didn't change. If it weren't for letting B practice, I could have dealt with you already. Are you sure? Mu Yue adjusted his glasses and drew a deep breath. His chakra surged, and his aura shifted sharply. Whoosh! He flashed and reappeared behind A. Dark armament haki shrouded Mu Yue's right fist as he launched a brutal punch. A had underestimated Mu Yue's strength and had no knowledge of his haki, but his reactions were lightning quick. He reactivated lightning release chakra mode. Blue lightning danced across his body. He responded with a punch of his own, crackling with raw electrical power. The black and blue fists collided with a thunderous impact. At that moment, Killer Bee and the other Kumogakure ninja arrived. 212. The unknown Aizen boom. A tremendous sonic boom split the air. The impact of their fists sent mud and sand flying outward in a widening circle. The ground beneath them began to crack under the sheer force. Fourth Raikage felt the power streaming through the arm that had connected with his, and his previously relaxed, unconcerned expression hardened. Bang! A's hastily thrown punch couldn't stand against Mu Yue's strike. He was shoved back more than 10 meters in an instant. Such strength and speed, could he be a hidden powerhouse from Sunagakure? I said, frowning. The Kumo shinobi who had rushed up saw their Raikage driven back. Killer Bee stared at his older brother being knocked away by a single blow, eyes wide and jaw slack with disbelief. My brother, losing in a taijutsu exchange? Bee rubbed at his face as if trying to wake from an illusion. This was the son of the third Raikage, the man who had mastered the terrifying lightning-release chakra mode and had been chosen as the next Raikage. Everyone, be careful. This one's chakra is intense, Motomu warned. Mu Yue had stopped using Transparent World to hide himself, and his chakra was unmistakable. You all go ahead. I'll find you later. Mu Yue's voice was calm but firm as he turned to Obito and the others. Given their current strength, it would be too dangerous to fight on the same front with him. He decided to divide the battlefield. He would hold the main force, block those opponents bespoured. Obito's team couldn't handle even with a surge of power, and leave the rest for Obito and the others to deal with. If Obito's team failed, Mu Yue would unleash his full power and evacuate them. Teacher, I want to fight with you. After seeing how Fourth Raikage I had performed, Obito didn't want Mu Yue facing such a dangerous opponent alone. Of course, how could the fiery youth retreat? Metkai declared, determination written across his face. Kakashi didn't speak, but he silently drew the white-fanged short sword from his back. Ready. Mu Yue smiled and patted each of them on the head. I'm glad you want to, but this isn't retreating. It's strategy. This enemy is very strong. It will be hard for me to watch over you in a one-on-one against him. I'll take most of the opponents. A few may chase you. That will ease some of the pressure on me. Listen carefully. There's only one mission, not to eliminate the enemy, not to gather intel, survive. His face serious, Mu Yue laid out the plan. Just then, Fourth Raikage I halted Berkeley, who was already drawing his sword to charge. This one is very strong. None of you match him. B and I will handle him, A ordered, brushing dust from his uniform. Berkeley, though older, fell silent. I's status and strength commanded obedience. Don't worry about me. The enemy may be strong, but I'm not weak either. Mu Yue patted Obito's shoulder and smiled gently. Let's go. We'll only be a burden here, Kakashi said calmly. The enemy's speed had been terrifying. If they stayed and got entangled, they would only draw attention and make things harder for Mu Yue. Obito, stubborn and proud, was not indecisive, but he understood that staying might hinder his teacher. He offered a silent prayer for Mu Yue and then ran into the forest with Kakashi and Metkai. Their departure might draw some of the enemy's fire and relieve Mu Yue. I have to be stronger. I must be stronger. Next time, I won't turn my back on Teacher Mu Yue like this, Obito vowed, fists clenched, unwilling to accept his helplessness. Mu Yue had taken him in despite his poor academy record, remade his training plan, and guided him to the top of the youth ninjutsu competition, bringing Obito from last place to rival even Kakashi. Mu Yue never scolded him when he was down. He encouraged him, pushed him to surpass himself. Thinking of that kind, patient teacher now risking himself made Obito feel helpless and ashamed. Metkai's usual exuberance was gone. Grief and frustration had left tears in his eyes. If my 8 gates could open the 8th gate, if my breathy, Nong technique could reach the level to activate the mark, then I could help Teacher Mu Yue, he bellowed inwardly. hating his own limitation. Warm memories. Mu Yue wolfing down food with a big smile, praise given for every improvement, the trust in his voice, turned into jagged blades in Guy's chest. Running, he punched a nearby tree with all his force. The trunk shattered under the blow. Kakashi's expression had darkened. That teacher who soothed students' sorrows, who quietly prepared plentiful breakfasts, who taught them powerful ninjutsu and secret techniques with no reserve, Mu Yue, might be putting himself in grave danger. Kakashi was the most pessimistic of the three. If even Mu Yue ordered them to run and simply survive, the enemy truly was formidable. You go after those three. Don't let them escape, Fourth Raikage said to Berkeley as Kakashi and the others fled into the trees. Follow me. Berkeley barked to a chuunin beside him, then Ai cracked his knuckles and stepped forward, eager for a rematch, and determined to stop Mu Yue from delivering a fatal strike. Tell me your name. With your strength, you shouldn't be unknown, Ai said, holding back his attack. Aizen, Mu Yue replied evenly. He was using a transformation technique. Of course, he wouldn't give his real name. Aizen? Ai thought for a moment, then admitted he had never heard of anyone by that name. I underestimated you just now, but next time will be different. He didn't dwell on the alias. Gathering his chakra, he readied himself. Mu Yue watched him with the same calm, prepared for whatever came next. 213. The collision between ninjutsu. Dazzling blue lightning burst from Fourth Raikage Ai as he poured a huge amount of chakra into activating his flesh, enhancing his strength and speed, and sharpening his nerves. Whoosh! He became a streak of blue lightning and charged straight at Mu Yue. Lightning style, kill. As he closed in, Ai raised his right hand and concentrated a surge of lightning chakra into his palm, striking at Mu Yue. His movement was so fast that even the cloud ninja beside him barely registered it. One moment Ai was gone, the next he was directly in front of Mu Yue, swinging down. Mu Yue, with his Byakugan, felt how exaggerated Ai's speed really was. At such velocity, even the Byakugan struggled to track him. During the Fourth Shinobi World War, Ai at full power had moved too fast for Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan to follow. But Mu Yue had more than the Byakugan. He also had Transparent World, so Ai's actions were within his expectations. Lightning breathing, Mark. Activate. Mu Yue entered the Mark state of lightning breathing, inhaling great gulps of air to heighten his body's capabilities. Simultaneously, he performed nature transformation to generate massive lightning release chakra, fashioning a blinding blue lightning armor around himself. Facing a foe like A for the first time, he was cautious and prepared to counter the Raikage's lightning release chakra mode. Lightning release, finger gun. Lightning wrapped Mu Yue's fingers and burst from his palm as he thrust them forward. Crackle, rumble. The lightning-clad palm met A's lightning-wreathed strike. Arcing electricity splintered outward and scorched the earth. The impact blew the ground apart and whipped the hair of the nearby cloud ninja into the air. Motomu watched, stunned. A had blinked out and suddenly Mu Yue had matched him, both enveloped in lightning, locked in ninjutsu. Kono, he actually knows Big Brother's technique, Baka Yaro. Killer Bee blurted, just as astonished. Another boom rocked the ground. The explosion shattered the earth underfoot. Both combatants were forced back over 2 meters. Blood dripped to the ground. A looked at his right palm and saw a trace of blood. His face hardened. He had actually been cut, wounded in a clash of lightning-release ninja body techniques with a Sunagakure shinobi. Is that hell stab? No, still not that level, I thought, recalling his father's deadlier spear techniques and quickly dismissing it. If it had been one-finger Nukite, he wouldn't just have a nick. Who are you to be capable of such a lightning-release chakra mode? I demanded, staring intently. I already told you, Mu Yue replied coolly. A's strength was terrifying. Mu Yue had used Transparent World to unleash his full physical potential and still only eked out a slight advantage. Mu Yue had not combined breathing technique with armament haki. Doing so could have given him a decisive edge and seriously injured A, but it would have squandered too much chakra. If he spent too much and didn't kill A, he'd be in trouble. There was still Killer B, and Mu Yue had to preserve chakra for his disciples. He was watching their fight through the Byakugan. If they ran into trouble, he would commit fully. His priority was training his students, not proving Konoha's glory. To conserve chakra, Mu Yue hadn't even used the highest speed of lightning breathing to start. He waited for Ai to make the first move. The little wound on his palm already scabbed under the lightning release chakra mode's cellular activation. Ai's expression darkened as he prepared the next move. 2 clashes in a row hadn't gone his way, but he still believed he could win. He had a stronger ninja body technique he hadn't yet used. Lightning bomb. A erupted into extreme speed again, charging like a bolt. Lightning crackled over his whole body and his pale hair subtly stood on end. He planned to snatch Mu Yue and smash him down. But as he closed in, Mu Yue blinked out of sight, a flash of blue, and a short lightning blade slid toward his chest. Mu Yue kicked Aya and sidestepped, avoiding the blade. His speed's even faster than Big Brother's, idiot bastard, Killer Bee muttered in surprise. Because Mu Yue had had to dodge Killer Bee's surprise attack, the kick wasn't fully powered. A scrambled up displeased. Mu Yue's refusal to attack made A think his speed wasn't superior, but what A failed to see was that Mu Yue's speed was even more exaggerated than his power. A frowned. If Mu Yue had dark skin and a bulky build, A would have suspected the third Raikage had an illegitimate son. Lariat, A composed himself. Whatever jokes there might be about parentage could wait. The priority was to win. He unleashed his strongest ninja body technique. Lariat was a secret Cloud Village technique, extremely fast and devastatingly powerful, the pinnacle of Kumogakure's lightning release ninja body techniques. Performed as a double lariat by 2 people, it was guaranteed death on impact. A and B had used it to slaughter many Sunagakure shinobi. But I wasn't going to coordinate with B now. Double lariat required matching strength. Against Mu Yue, I would push himself to the limit. Lightning crackled continuously as I pushed his chakra mode to maximum. His strength and defense were at their peak. When he ran, even Mu Yue's Byakugan saw only a concentrated mass of quickly moving chakra. A's form blurred. Whoosh! Like a heavily armored tank with the speed of a plane, Ai's charge uprooted the trees behind Mu Yue. Most people would only have one choice, dodge or be pulverized. Mu Yue, however, didn't move. He was the one A had the misfortune to run into. In lightning breathing mark state, Mu Yue could massively increase his power. Transparent World let him push his body to 100%. Add his perfectly honed armament haki and sufficient chakra, and a head-on clash was nothing to fear. Mu Yue focused his breathing. Lightning coalesced around his arm. All his strength poured into his right arm until veins bulged. A pitch-black armament haki shrouded his fist. Colorless armament energy crackled around it. Since I had given him an opening, Mu Yue wouldn't hold back. Lightning breathing, serious punch, he charged, his lightning-wreathed black fist smashing into A. The combination of activated flesh from the breathing mark, armament haki enhancement, and transparent world mastery produced a shockwave from the single strike. Sand and dirt exploded up, winds hurled dust in every direction. Except for Killer Bee, who wore sunglasses, the Cloud Ninja had to shield their eyes. How can there be such power? Motomu gaped, sweat on his brow. He could feel the aura. Mu Yue's strike was terrifying. A chilling realization crept up. How could their Raikage candidate lose to an unknown? Is that the third Raikage's child? Even Lord Third praised him. He tried to reassure himself, but it didn't change the facts. Even without sensory ninjutsu, Motomu felt the force of Mu Yue's punch. Only chakra use kept him from being blown away. Big Brother! Killer Bee dropped the wrapping. He'd always believed in A, but Mu Yue's power was beyond exaggeration. Rumble! Mu Yue's lightning-wrapped, armament steel fist met A's charge. The collision detonated a monstrous explosion. Lightning seared the earth. Within seconds, the ground within a 20-meter radius collapsed into a massive crater. With a single thunderous impact, A's sturdy body was launched backward. Killer Bee surged forward to absorb the blow, but he'd overestimated himself. He was sent flying some distance too, though he did mitigate part of the force. He's actually stronger! Motomu's forehead was cold with sweat. He had viewed Ai as a superhuman, fast and powerful in lightning release chakra mode, yet here was someone who had not only matched him head-on, but sent him reeling. And this opponent wasn't one of the 5 Kage or a renowned legend. He was a virtually unknown. A coughed up blood, supported by B as he climbed to his feet, disbelief written across his face. That lariat, Kumogakure's peak body technique, was something Nai had trained for since childhood. He had expected any opponent to either avoid it or be grievously injured. Mu Yue not only endured the blow, but knocked him out of his lightning mode with one punch. Motomu realized how dangerous Mu Yue was. Quick to react, Motomu formed hand signs and, together with another cloud chuunin, launched lightning release ninjutsu at Mu Yue. But in his lightning breathing mark, Mu Yue breezed past the two attacks with a sidestep. He raised his hands and clenched them. Two lightning spears immediately materialized in his grip. Whoosh! Whoosh! He hurled them. One pierced a cloud chuunin, electricity scorching him into instant death. Motomu couldn't outrun the thrown spear, but I re-entered lightning release chakra mode at full and intercepted, saving him. Motomu's face was ashen. He can use lightning release ninjutsu that fast without hand signs, Motomu thought, terrified. Protecting Motomu and B, A pushed them back and created distance. Mu Yue deactivated his lightning breathing mark, used transparent world to mask his aura, adopted an inscrutable expression, and began to rapidly refine chakra. His recovery wasn't instantaneous, but every bit helped. His techniques consumed an enormous amount of chakra. Unleash all your potential, he told himself, while still watching A and the others and keeping an eye on his disciples through the Byakugan. He'd done well here. He'd injured A and could withdraw any time. But his students' situation was less favorable. They faced a Jonin with 7,100 chakra and mastery of lightning release nature transformation, and a Chuunin with 4,000 chakra. That pressure made Mu Yue want to finish one side of the fight cleanly. Whoosh! As Kakashi and his companions sprinted north with everything they had, a figure with lightning crackling around his feet closed the distance. Berkeley's speed was terrifying. Every time Obito glanced back, he could see him drawing nearer. Whoosh! 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 Obito and Kakashi pulled shuriken from their pouches and threw them in unison. Berkeley drew the razor blade strapped to his back, deflecting every shuriken, then used a lightning shunshin to slip past them, appearing squarely in front of the three. Be careful with this one. He might be a Jonin, Kakashi said, expression tightening as he drew his white fang short sword. Kakashi wasn't being dramatic. Rank isn't judged only by raw strength, but higher-ranked shinobi typically can overwhelm lower-ranked ones. Jonin are rare, backbone fighters for their villages, masters of ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu with years of mission experience. A normal Jonin could slaughter a normal chuunin without much trouble. There were exceptions. Obito and Metkai, for example, who despite being still at the academy had already surpassed many chuunin, but Jonin were a different class entirely. Heh, I am indeed a Kumogakure Jonin, Berkeley laughed, looking them up and down. Surrender now if you know what's good for you, otherwise my lightning release blade will make sure you regret it. Kakashi and the others had used the transformation technique to alter their appearances and clothing, but not their heights. They still looked like 9-year-olds. Obito and Guy silently entered the total concentration breathing state. Surrender wasn't an option. If they couldn't escape, they'd fight. Berkeley's men moved in, cutting off their path. A group of Kumogakure Chuunin closed from behind, hemming them in. Kakashi's mind raced. He leaned toward Guy and whispered, Guy, take the ones behind us. Obito and I will handle the stronger one up front. Go all out, try to finish him fast so we can focus him together. Judging by the pursuer's speed, Kakashi guessed the rear opponent was weaker. His plan, let Guy, the most explosive fighter among them, swiftly take down that Chuunin, then the three of them would concentrate on Berkeley. Conserve chakra and stamina, stall for time. Wait for Guy to finish, then we all attack, he told Obito quietly. Obito didn't argue. In combat experience, Kakashi was the clear leader. Seems you've chosen a painful death. Attack! Berkeley shouted, and at once his subordinates lunged. Guy and the two others exchanged a glance and nodded. Guy bolted toward the Kumogakure Chuunin, while Kakashi and Obito moved to engage Berkeley. Rock breathing. Total concentration, breathing. Guy inhaled deeply, the chakra-laced chi coursing through his body, fortifying his physique. 8 gates. First gate. Gate of opening. Open. He forced the first of his 8 gates and pushed even more chakra into his breathing technique. In a single breath, his presence surged, and the charging Chuunin glanced sideways at the sudden aura. Sand hidden. Great whirlwind. Guy spun into a lightning-fast kick. The gust from his strike rustled the leaves. The Kumagakure chuunin met the spinning kick with a punch, chakra flaring. Bang! Flesh met flesh. The chuunin staggered back 2.5 steps. Guy 2 steps. To have this strength at his age, he's a genius, the chuunin breathed, eager now. Guy's expression hardened. That blow hadn't been his full power, and the opponent hadn't used any special technique. He'd expected a quick finish. Instead, the chuunin answered blow for blow. He stole a glance at Kakashi and Obito, 2 against Berkeley, but they were being pressed hard. If he couldn't dispatch his opponent quickly, Kakashi and Obito would take injuries. The burden settled on him. Super sand-hidden, strong force whirlwind, Guy roared, pouring everything into his legs. The attack was fiercer than the kick that once bested Kakashi. Lightning storm leg, the Kumagakure chuunin countered. He gathered chakra in his leg, used lightning release nature transformation to amplify it, and struck Wii, a devastating kick. The collision of the 2 feet sent a shockwave that bent nearby trees. Both men were pushed back 4 steps. Guy's fists clenched. The worst case had happened. His opponent was no pushover. No quick resolution this time. On Kakashi and Obito's side, things were even grimmer. Berkeley's swordsmanship was far faster than Kakashi's. He couldn't get any advantage. If not for Obito's help, also in the total concentration state, Kakashi wouldn't have been able to hold his ground. They tried to stall, to weather the onslaught, but Berkeley's speed in both ninjutsu and taijutsu was relentless. Each time Kakashi parried, another thrust came. Kakashi managed to push through a flurry of attacks and glanced over at Guy. What he saw drained hope from him. The enemy Guy faced was strong. Guy couldn't finish him quickly. How could they win? That thought barely formed before Berkeley's blade thrust forward again. Obito felt an immense pressure from Berkeley and a new, deeper respect for Mu Yue's power. He and Kakashi, working together, were being driven to retreat by an opponent Mu Yue had apparently defeated in an instant with a single ninjutsu. If Mu Yue had been solemn facing someone else, how formidable must that opponent be? Berkeley's oppressive presence snapped Obito out of his reverie. Only when faced with an actual jonin did he truly understand how exaggerated a jonin's strength could be. Bang! Might Guy launched attack after attack at blistering speed, pushing himself to the limit and still getting nowhere. The Cloud Village chuunin he faced was every bit as skilled as he was and far more experienced. Without even a small speed advantage, the fight could have gone much worse. Anxiety gnawed at Guy. He had to finish this quickly, or Kakashi and Obito would be finished by Berkeley. The more desperate he became, the more the chuunin seized on openings. Guy was driven back over a meter. As he retreated, he stole a look at Kakashi and Obito. Berkeley's relentless pressure had them bloodied and barely holding on. I need more strength. I have to open more gates, Guy thought. The first 3 of the 8 gates are the relatively safe ones, and they're trained faster than the later gates. Mu Yue had told him to focus on the gates, and it had been nearly a month since he'd finally opened the first. He'd tried to open the second before this mission, and failed. Back then, he'd accepted the difficulty. His father had trained 20 years to master that forbidden jutsu. But now there was no time for patience. If he didn't take action, Berkeley would finish off Kakashi and Obito, and then turn on him with the chuunin at his side. My father said this forbidden jutsu harms the body if used past your limits. You must have restraint, Guy remembered. Even so, he couldn't afford restraint now. True victory isn't just defeating the strong, he reminded himself of his father's words. It's protecting what matters until the very last moment. His resolve hardened. He let out a roar and poured chakra into trying to open the second gate. The Cloud chuunin, thinking Guy was preparing some fearsome technique, pulled back cautiously, watching. But once again Guy's attempt failed. He strained and nothing happened. The aura that had flared began to fade. You little brat, scared me for nothing, the Cloud chuunin snorted and rushed him with a lightning-fast punch, expecting to catch him off guard. Guy barely dodged with shave, his chest sinking. If he couldn't open another gate, he couldn't gain the power to end this fight quickly. A sudden crash to his side snapped his attention. Obito had been slammed into a large tree. The trunk shuddered and leaves rained down. Desperation tightened Guy's fists. There had to be another way. Then an idea flashed through his mind. Mu Yue's lessons about the breathing technique, total concentration breathing, came back to him. Breathe to absorb external power. Let the chi drive chakra and strengthen the body. The 8 gates are restrictions in the chakra circulatory system. The breathing technique can draw energy in and circulate chakra. If he couldn't open the second gate normally, he could use the breathing technique to force the restriction open with external power. He didn't know what damage this would do to his body, but there was no time to weigh the cost. Obito, Kakashi, I will protect you, he swore. Guy's breathing narrowed and sharpened like a blade. He focused the absorbed chi, letting it carry chakra toward the chakra point in his head, the location of the second gate, the gate of healing. Pain exploded in his skull. He clenched his fists so tight his nails bit his palms, but the pain was a necessary price. Seeing Guy slump again, the Cloud Chuunin sneered, not falling for that twice. He condensed a great deal of chakra, nature transforming it into blazing blue lightning around his right leg. Lightning storm leg, he shouted, charging. For a moment, Guy thought he'd failed again. But when he fully committed total concentration breathing, he felt something like a click inside him, as if a door had opened. Not only did the second restriction break, but something inside him cleared. Fatigue vanished and his chakra surged. 8 gates, second gate, gate of healing, open, Guy roared. His aura spiked. Clarity filled his mind, and a raw, explosive power flowed through his limbs. If he could not open further gates, at least with this he could turn the tide. I can use that move, Nen. Ow, he thought. Mu Yue had always urged him to blend techniques and invent his own taijutsu. Guy had tried to fuse shave and whirlwind leg, using the momentum of a full sprint combined with the multi-burst power of shave, and called the result Noon Leopard. He'd failed to pull it off before because his body wasn't strong enough. Now, with the second gate and total concentration supporting him, he felt it would work. He poured every ounce of his newly borrowed and awakened strength into his leg and charged. I'll save this for Kakashi, but I'll test it on you first, he shouted. The Cloud Chuunin noticed the change immediately. Guy's aura was heavier, his speed sharper. Confusion flickered across his face. How could Guy suddenly be stronger from a few roars? They collided at full velocity. Each launched a kick. Their legs met with a thunderous bang. Chakra flared from Guy in the vague shape of a leopard's head, and his kick struck like a pouncing predator. Fast, savage, merciless. On the other side was the Chuunin's full-power ninja body technique enhanced with lightning release. The impact didn't hold. The Cloud Chuunin was ripped backward like a kite with a cut string, smashing through a dozen trees before tumbling to a stop. The leg that had met Guy's was shredded, blood pouring down it. How? Was the last thought in the Chuunin's eyes before he blacked out. He had underestimated the little kid who looked no older than 9. Guy had come into the fight strong, then apparently hidden an enormous reserve, then awakened something with a vow to protect. Guy panted hard, his leg trembling from the effort. The Noon Leopard had been more than he was used to, even with the second gate open. Kakashi and Obito, and even Berkeley, had all felt the shock wave. Guy, he's gotten stronger, Kakashi said, stunned. The kick was far beyond the one that had once bested him. Obito, breathless and relieved, smiled inwardly. If Guy hadn't arrived, they wouldn't have lasted. Guy didn't pause. He checked the unconscious Chuunin only briefly and sped toward Kakashi and Obito. Berkeley watched the scene without much alarm. He acknowledged that these kids had talent, but he had been a jonin for 10 years, an old hand who'd honed all he could. The rest was up to raw talent and limits. He nodded to himself. This was troublesome, but not enough to worry. Yet. Kakashi met Guy as he returned and warned quickly. Be careful. His lightning release ninja body technique and lightning sword technique pack a lot of power. Guy's expression turned serious as he looked at Berkeley. In just a short time, Berkeley had nearly crushed Kakashi and Obito. He was a dangerous opponent and had to be treated with extreme caution. Guy steadied his breathing and set himself between his friends and the looming threat, ready to press the fight on however far it took him. 216. Bloody Eyes. It's finally time to counterattack, Kakashi. Don't drag us down, Obito said, a little relieved. He was ready to use ninjutsu at a moment's notice. That's what I should be saying. Use all your chakra wisely. Don't waste it, Kakashi replied, gripping his white-fanged short sword and fixing his gaze on Berkeley, not far away. Our youth burns brightly today. Might Guy gave a thumbs up to himself, Kakashi, and Obito. The three exchanged glances and nodded. Guy took a charging stance and shouted, "All right, let's go." Fire release, great fireball technique. Obito sealed with his hands and launched a massive 4-meter fireball at Berkeley. Even after Guy's previous kick, Obito didn't think Guy could face Berkeley alone, so he wanted to create an opening for him. The great fireball looked devastating. Berkeley could have blocked it, but he didn't want to simply tank a fire jutsu that could be evaded. He flashed to the right. Kakashi wouldn't let Berkeley slip away. He sent a flurry of shuriken and leaped into the trees, closing in by moving from branch to branch. Berkeley raised his sword, gathering chakra in his palm for a nature transformation. The silver-white blade crackled into blue lightning and sliced through the incoming shuriken. "If this is all you've got, this will end very quickly," Berkeley said with a grin. 3 kids with this much skill, they were geniuses. Killing a genius in war brought greater merit than killing an ordinary shinobi, he thought. Whoosh! Kakashi, holding a kunai, burst forward and stabbed at Berkeley's flank. Berkeley calmly turned and blocked the thrust with his sword. Just as he was about to kick Kakashi away, a gust swept past him. Might Guy had taken the opportunity. Sunagakure Great Whirlwind. Guy poured chakra into his leg and unleashed a blistering whirlwind kick. Berkeley's face betrayed no change. He condensed chakra, his feet glowing with lightning. With a sudden push, he shoved Kakashi 5 meters back, then used lightning shunshin to appear behind Guy, avoiding the kick and striking him with an elbow that sent him stumbling forward. As Berkeley readied another attack with his lightning sword, Kakashi's main body charged out. Purple lightning. Kakashi gathered a surge of chakra in his hand and performed a lightning nature transformation. Brilliant purple lightning condensed into a blade-shaped form through shape transformation. Using its acceleration to boost his speed, Kakashi charged at Berkeley. Purple lightning didn't accelerate like Chidori, but it still gave a meaningful speed boost, enough for a non-Sharingan user to rely on. Berkeley didn't sidestep. He spun and swept his lightning sword toward Kakashi's attack. To Berkeley's surprise, Kakashi altered his technique midair. The purple blade fractured into several lightning bolts that streaked at him. Berkeley had seen tricks like this before. He expelled a large amount of chakra and intensified the lightning on his own sword. The blue glow thickened and blocked most of Kakashi's bolts. He then twisted his body to avoid what remained. Guy sprang up and charged again. The shadow clone Kakashi that had been pushed back followed him. Fire release. Great dragon fire technique. Obito unleashed another fire jutsu, compressing chakra in his throat and spewing out a ferocious dragon of flame with serrated teeth. The great dragon fire technique left Obito hollow, its cost far greater than the fireball. Faced with the coordinated assault, Berkeley's expression turned serious. He swung to push Guy back, flashed forward, grabbed the attacking shadow clone, and hurled it into Obito's dragon of fire. Boom! The clone was engulfed. At that instant, Kakashi's main body drew his white-fanged short sword and slashed toward Berkeley's vital points. Shocking lightning sword. Yellow lightning flared across Berkeley's blade as it vibrated at an intense frequency. He used it to block Kakashi's strike and twisted away from Guy's next attack. The force transmitted through Berkeley's sword made Kakashi flinch and Reacher eat warily. This was no ordinary jonin, Kakashi thought. No weak points in ninjutsu or taijutsu, abundant combat experience, everything converted into fighting power. Berkeley fit that jonin profile perfectly. He was tough. Even Might Guy barely avoided injury in a direct clash. With most of Obito's chakra gone, it was getting dire. Obito pulled out a kunai and rejoined the fray. Berkeley, facing 3 attackers, still showed no signs of tiring. His lightning shunshin moves were so fast, Kakashi could hardly follow. As Berkeley and Guy clashed, Obito searched for an opening. He produced 2 more kunai and discreetly formed a single-hand seal behind his back. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson. 3 flame-imbued kunai shot toward Berkeley. Victory seemed close, until Obito realized Berkeley had been watching him, waiting for an opening. Lightning wrapped Berkeley's feet, and he vanished. The 3 burning kunai missed. So fast! Obito's pupils tightened. In the next instant, Berkeley reappeared beside him and swung his blade. Clang! Kakashi arrived at the last moment, meeting Berkeley's sword with his own. The attack, however, did not end there. Berkeley's condensed chakra burst through, and his sword flared with lightning. Kakashi couldn't parry the terrifying lightning technique. There was a bloody gash across his left leg. "Kakashi!" Obito cried, filled with guilt. He could have been more careful. Sunagakure's strong force whirlwind. Guy exploded forward, kicking at Berkeley to stop him from finishing Kakashi off, while Obito scooped Kakashi up and backed away. Kakashi felt numbness in his left leg. This was bad. A cut alone was manageable, but lightning-infused paralysis would temporarily ruin his combat ability. They were already struggling. If it came down to just Obito and Guy, victory was impossible. He had to decide. "Obito, put me down and go. Go with Guy. If I use up all my chakra, I can hold him for a while. If you both use the breathing technique and retreat separately, you might get away," Kakashi said after a moment's thought. His left leg was temporarily incapacitated. With chakra, he could still limp and form seals, but there was no chance of winning in this state. Better that he sacrifice himself so Obito and Guy could live. Kakashi was calm. He had prepared for this possibility when he agreed to continue the mission despite their injuries. If a teammate could be sacrificed to complete the mission, then so could he. He did not fear death. Before 7, he had not understood it. After 7, he did not fear it. If there were an afterlife, he'd ask his father whether he regretted his choices. "What nonsense are you talking about? Do you think Uchiha Obito and Might Guy would abandon their teammate?" Obito roared, his eyes starting to burn crimson. "Have you forgotten Mu Yue-sensei's mission? To survive. This isn't abandoning a teammate, it's the right choice," Kakashi insisted. "In this state, I can't fight alongside you. Better for me to sacrifice myself so the two of you can live." Obito's fists clenched. He'd accepted Mu Yue's order to leave because that battlefield had been too dangerous. His presence might have become a liability. But this time, the enemy was just a jonin, someone like Mu Yue could defeat with a single ninjutsu. Even if Berkeley had trained longer, he wasn't unbeatable. Should he really abandon an injured companion now? No. Obito felt something inside him snap. This teammate had been hurt trying to protect him. To abandon him would be to lose himself. All the frustration from Mu Yue's rear-guard actions, his impotence in battle, being looked down on by Kakashi who urged retreat, erupted. He couldn't stand being weak any longer. Extreme emotion produced a strange chakra in Obito's chest. Under its influence, his eyes bled crimson and 2 tomoe swirled into place. The Sharingan awakened. The world sharpened. Everything became clearer and easier to read. "This is..." Obito paused, remembering what Shisui had said about awakening the eyes. It matched what he felt now, only stronger. "Kakashi, you narcissistic jerk. Do you think we can't manage without you? 2 people are still 2 people. Without you, Guy and I can beat him. Watch." Obito lifted his head and stared at Kakashi with those blood-red eyes. Kakashi's expression went blank with shock. Obito had awakened the Uchiha Sharingan at a critical moment. Kakashi knew the reputation of that bloodline. Whoever awakened the Sharingan often became a powerful jonin. The eyes greatly amplified a shinobi's abilities. Obito turned and charged at Berkeley. Without Kakashi and Obito aiding him, Guy alone quickly fell into a disadvantage. "Is this the power of unwavering conviction?" Kakashi murmured, remembering Mu Yue's words. The sudden appearance of the Sharingan gave Obito a surge of clarity and strength. Since Might Guy and Berkeley were locked together in combat, Obito didn't use a fire release attack. He concentrated instead on his breathing technique, drew a kunai, and charged. Berkeley had meant to finish off the stronger Might Guy first, but he'd also kept an eye on Obito to guard against a sneak attack. Berkeley's own power far exceeded Guy's, so he could afford to be cautious. After kicking Might Guy back, he sneered, "Sharingan, you're not from Sunagakure, you're from Konoha." He sighed with regret. What a pity, if it had been a Byakugan. Kumogakure didn't crave the Sharingan the way the Uchiha clan did. The Byakugan, however, was a different matter. Its strategic value outstripped mere combat might. Perception ninjas were indispensable. The Byakugan's near X-ray vision was like having a battlefield wall hack. If Berkeley could bring even 1 Byakugan back to the village, it would be worth more than killing some jonin. He coveted it like treasure. If you're able, Then come and try, Obito taunted. As you wish. Lightning flared from Berkeley's legs as he exploded forward. Before he activated his Sharingan, Obito had only been able to make out a blur in the lightning. The moment he opened his two-tomoe Sharingan, everything snapped into sharp relief, the dust clinging to Berkeley's body, the angle of his charge. Is this the true power of the Sharingan? Obito thought. No wonder Shisui beat Kakashi so easily after using his. With this, I could definitely beat Kakashi now. Even so, Obito didn't grow careless. He'd beaten Hyuga Homura, who had a Byakugan, without relying on his Sharingan. Seeing something didn't always make it easy to block or dodge. His heart burned with a new resolve. Kakashi had been hurt blocking the sword, and Obito wanted to avenge him. Flame breathing. Total concentration breathing. With his two-tomoe Sharingan fixed ahead, Obito sucked in a deep breath, flooding his body with oxygen to strengthen his limbs and quicken his nature transformation. Berkeley lunged and slashed for Obito's chest. Obito sidestepped and stabbed with a kunai. Clang! Berkeley blocked and countered. Clang! Clang! Steel rang as they traded a rapid volley of blows. Obito's kunai work was nothing special, but under the dynamic vision of the Sharingan, he successfully parried Berkeley's swordplay. As expected of the Uchiha's Sharingan, his power spiked instantly, Berkeley admitted, a bit stunned. Leaf-strong whirlwind. Exposed, Might Guy unleashed a heavy kick on Berkeley. Now the situation turned awkward for Berkeley. He could handle Might Guy or Obito alone, but not both. Guy was fast, strong, and relentless. Obito had sharp perception, could see through his moves, and could use fire release without hand seals. On top of that, Berkeley's condition was worsening. His chakra reserves were not as abundant as his combat record suggested. Obito's presence complicated everything. He warned Might Guy of Berkeley's openings and harassed Berkeley's movements, limiting the Jonin's effectiveness. Trying to target Obito first was even riskier. The Sharingan made surprise attacks difficult, and Guy's support was immediate. I'd rather face two Obitos or two Might Guys than these two together, Berkeley thought bitterly. One was perception, the other direct combat. Together, they shifted the balance completely. Kakashi, watching from the side, was also surprised. These weren't casual shinobi, they fought like Jonin leading important missions. And yet Obito and Might Guy weren't even official ninja yet. They've completely surpassed me, Kakashi thought, stunned. They're the real geniuses. He remembered how helpless he'd been against Berkeley before. Now Might Guy and an awakened Obito were suppressing him. Shocking Thunder Sword, Berkeley roared, pouring everything into a frantic counterattack. A desperate Jonin was terrifying. Obito and Might Guy took some minor injuries, but nothing that slowed them. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Kell. Ah, Crimson! Obito seized the window created by Berkeley's frenzy and hurled 4 flaming shuriken. The blazing projectiles forced Berkeley to evade with a lightning flash. All right, Might Guy had been waiting for that moment. He surged forward, Noon Leopard, pouring every last ounce of the 8 gates in total concentration breathing into his legs. Might Guy made one final, explosive assault. The forced opening of the second gate amplified the power to a violent peak. After a long fight, Guy was at his limit. Roaring, he became an erupting leopard in motion, his leg the fanged strike that tore through anything it touched. Caught by the synchronized assault, Berkeley had no time to evade. He funneled a mass of chakra to harden his body, but the impact still rocked him. Bang! The collision cracked the earth, and Berkeley was launched like a cannonball, smashing through a line of trees before finally skidding to a stop. Might Guy, exhausted, collapsed to his hands and could not rise. Sweat poured from his brow. Guy, are you all right? Obito helped him sit against a tree, eyes scanning for Berkeley. Guy forced a pained smile and gave a thumbs up. A beast that's hunted successfully, of course, is fine. Just watch the enemy. He knew they had to finish the fight. In this moment, he could no longer press on. Berkeley's body shook, full of bitter disbelief. Am I going to be undone by a couple of brats? He'd been a shinobi for 24 years, made ninja at 9, achieved Jonin by 23, handled countless A-rank missions and even S-rank ones. He had accepted the idea that he might one day die on the battlefield, but he'd never imagined being felled by kids younger than 10. Swearing, he tried to stand. He still had a sliver of chakra. Maybe he could kill someone. The first two attempts failed. On the third, he staggered upright. Obito readied his shuriken to finish Berkeley off. Just then, Kakashi moved. Kakashi rose, gripping his white-fanged short sword, eyes clear. The words of Mu Yue echoed in his head. Uphold your ninja way. Solidify your beliefs. He'd spent the past 2 years in a fog, unsure what kind of shinobi earned constant praise, uncertain whether missions or comrades mattered more. But watching Obito and Guy fight for him, never thinking to abandon him even when he begged, had answered that question. Comrades mattered most. If a mission meant sacrificing them, he would rather refuse the mission. Tears threatened in Kakashi's eyes as he remembered how he'd squandered time the past 2 years. He could be the Kakashi who cherished comrades, who lived up to the genius label, or remain lost. He chose action. His breathing tightened like never before, and the numbness in his leg began to ebb. Memories of Mu Yue, teaching lightning breathing, of his father's sword lessons before he died, connected in his mind. The scattered pieces came together. Lightning breathing, thunderclap flash. Chakra erupted through Kakashi's hands and feet, electric light crackling along them. He poured the strength into his uninjured right leg and vanished in a blinding streak. Berkeley, still reeling, caught sight of the flash rushing in and tried to react, but he had little chakra left. The next instant, the electric streak was gone and Kakashi stood behind him, the white-fanged short sword gleaming. Thud! Berkeley's body split apart and collapsed, blood spilling out. Kakashi exhaled. He had severed not just the enemy's body, but the nightmare that had haunted him for 2 years. "Did you learn lightning breathing?" Obito asked, surprised by the sudden burst of speed. "Haha, as expected of my rival," Metkai said, grinning despite his exhaustion. "I look forward to our next fight." Kakashi nodded calmly. "Then you'd better be careful. A genius like me improves very quickly." Disciple Uchiha Obito's trust level has increased. Current trust level 4. Disciple Uchiha Obito's emotions surged, triggering his 6 paths bloodline and awakening a 2 Tomoe Sharingan. Strength increased. Reward granted. Byakugan purity increased. Disciple Uchiha Obito's chakra plus 500. Master Disciple feedback granted chakra 2000. Obito's outburst pushed a stream of system notifications to Mu Yue. When the Byakugan's purity rose, Mu Yue noticed he could see farther and with finer detail. The Byakugan doesn't have Tomoe stages the way the Sharingan does, but users differ in raw ability. The eye's power can be honed, and purity affects that. Mu Yue was pleased. Byakugan is a very useful tool, and combined with Transparent World it can be decisive in combat. He was also satisfied with the extra chakra. Obito's awakening had indirectly returned 2,000 points to Mu Yue through the Master-Disciple link. Kakashi and Metkai showed clear improvement too, even if they hadn't triggered system notifications yet. With a little more training, they might. Seeing his disciples break through and survive, Mu Yue decided not to linger any longer with the 4th Raikage. He moved immediately. Water release, hidden mist technique. Mu Yue formed the seals, exhaled a dense fog, and as the mist swallowed the clearing, he cut his breath and unleashed lightning breathing to vanish. He'd accomplished his objective and was running low on chakra. The safest plan was to gather his students and return to Konoha fast. The mist blinded the Raikage and his men. 4th Raikage frowned. Mu Yue's technique and manner were oddly out of place. "Isn't that a hidden mist jutsu? Could he be a hidden mist shinobi disguised as a Sunagakure ninja? Is the mist making a play for this too?" A wondered, speculating as the mist cleared. With the speed of lightning breathing, Mu Yue arrived back just as the battle ended. He hadn't been gone long, and Obito, still buzzing with adrenaline, rushed forward and flung himself at his teacher. "Mu Yue-sensei!" Obito hugged him, then pulled back and asked, worried, "Are you all right? Did you defeat those Kumogakure shinobi?" Metkai, having dragged himself to his feet through sheer will, managed a thumbs up and a roaring laugh. As expected of Mu Yue-sensei, even the strongest foes do not stop you. Kakashi hovered nearby to help keep Guy steady, watching Mu Yue. Obito and Guy had already said everything that needed to be said. "I'm fine," Mu Yue smiled. "I wouldn't say I completely defeated them, but I did get the upper hand. You can trust your sensei. I told you I would come find you." He sealed the severed Kumogakure Jonin into a scroll, finished the unconscious chuunin with a beheading, then sealed him as well, and performed the summoning technique. A puff of white smoke revealed a giant black eagle. Kurohane, carry us back to Konoha. It's too dangerous here. Mu Yue pointed the direction to avoid confusing the creature. Kurohane answered with a loud cry and took to the sky. On the eagle's broad back, Mu Yue used the mystical palm technique to heal his students. Obito fared the best, only scrapes and bruises from a fall. Kakashi had a deep cut on his left leg. Metkai was worst off, severe damage to the muscles of his right leg and collapsing fatigue from overexertion. Guy, no intense training for a week. I'll arrange rehab for you, Mu Yue said. I have to rest for a whole week? Guy protested, incredulous. Mu Yue tapped Guy's head with 2 fingers. That's the minimum. Want to bargain with your sensei? Guy had pushed his body far too hard. Forcibly opening the 8 gates with a breathing technique is like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, powerful in the short term, devastating in the aftermath. Without the cultivation elixir Mu Yue had used, Guy would have needed more than a month to recover. Guy corrected himself at once. Youth needs balance between work and rest. Obito, curious, asked about the big black opponent they'd faced. Who was that huge guy, Mu Yue-sensei? You said you only had a slight upper hand. Mu Yue answered, the son of the 3rd Raikage. If things had gone differently, he could be the next Raikai. At this time, the 4th Raikai already had a reputation, but Mu Yue had met a serious opponent, one whose rank and power justified caution. Obito's eyes widened. The next Raikage? So you had the upper hand against a Raikage candidate? He was awed. Even as a candidate, that man was a Kage-level threat. You're making a big leap, Mu Yue chuckled, ruffling Obito's hair. He's strong, yes, but still not on the 3rd Raikage's level. Obito couldn't help blurt out their own feat. We teamed up and defeated a Kumogakure Jonin. He activated his newly awakened Sharingan, his eyes flashing blood red. He didn't mention Kakashi's brief thought of giving up in the fight, only that Kakashi had been injured. You all did very well, Mu Yue praised. Defeating a Jonin isn't easy. If you told others, they might think you were exaggerating. It was a staggering accomplishment. Obito and Kakashi were barely 9 years old, and even with Guy's help, a Jonin is no pushover. Mu Yue felt certain their future Jonin instructor would be shocked when these 3 sat the bell test. If the instructor was ordinary, they might even get a lesson from his students. No matter what others say, our youth burns brighter and brighter, Guy declared proudly. Despite his injury, he had no regrets. He'd used his strength to protect what mattered and experienced true victory. Mu Yue glanced at their stat readouts. Guy's rock breathing proficiency had hit 40 points at the introductory level, Obito's flame breathing reached 130 in the introductory stage, and Kakashi's lightning breathing sat at 54 in the uninitiated level. Beyond numbers, there was another gain, hard-won combat experience. For Kakashi, that was already significant, but for Guy and Obito, it was a crucial lesson. Obito, relaxed now, mused about Konoha. When I get back, I have to show Rin my Sharingan, he thought, imagining her surprised, admiring face, and I'll challenge Kakashi. This new power made him feel he could finally catch up to Kakashi, the genius he'd looked up to. That thought made Obito grin, his body practically trembling. Stop grinning like an idiot, Kakashi said flatly. Who's grinning? You hateful Kakashi. I'll make you pay back in Konoha, Obito shot back, restraining his smile to glare. Kakashi shrugged. Whether you're foolish or not, ask Guy. Guy, be the judge. I trust you, Obito implored. Guy looked between them, then mimicked Obito's smile with thumb and forefinger. You really did smile a little foolishly. Guy, Obito's eyes widened in mock betrayal. How could you? Just a little, Guy admitted against his conscience. Kakashi smirked, then said, If you don't believe me, ask Mu Yue-sensei. Obito turned to Mu Yue with expectant eyes, but Mu Yue simply looked up at the sky in silence. The message was clear enough. Obito let it drop. After they re-entered the Land of Fire, Mu Yue had Kurohane set them down and treated them to a hot meal. The 4 of them, and 1 giant black bird, ate their fill. With Obito's spirits high, Mu Yue seized the moment and began teaching him Genjutsu, demonic illusion, tree-binding death. You taught your disciple demonic illusion, tree-binding death. The system then rewarded Mu Yue for Obito's overwhelming gratitude, a supercritical release chakra nature transformation, perfect grade. A flood of fire release cultivation memories poured into Mu Yue's mind. His understanding of fire leapt forward. His appreciation for flame techniques, things he hadn't grasped before, like aspects of Amaterasu, suddenly made sense. Mu Yue smiled. Perfect grade fire release nature transformation was, to him, as good as any other perfect skill. It pushed the ceiling on his fire techniques far higher. Even low proficiency fire jutsu could strike with new power under its influence, opening creative possibilities he hadn't considered. The rewards from this mission far exceeded my expectations, he thought. He'd meant only to help Kakashi and prompt Obito's Sharingan. Instead, Obito's trust level rose, his disciples advanced, and Mu Yue himself gained significant cultivation. He guessed Obito's settlement would be similar to Gai's, another plus 2,000 chakra and a master-grade skill, once fully recorded. Before they returned to Konoha, Mu Yue gave a final instruction. Don't tell anyone we faced a Raikage candidate. Say we only encountered a jonin and a chuunin. Why, Mu Yue-sensei? You didn't lose? Obito asked, puzzled. If the story were true, he'd shout it from the rooftops. Kakashi offered an answer. Mu Yue-sensei probably doesn't want to become famous. Mu Yue nodded. He didn't want his disguise or his true strength known right now. With the mission debriefed, Mu Yue led the three back to Konoha. It was noon when Mu Yue and the others returned to Konoha. I'll handle the mission paperwork. You all did well. Take the rest of the day off and get a good night's sleep at home, Mu Yue said with a smile. He didn't suggest they go train. This mission had been too grueling for his three students. I'm beat, Obito groaned, stretching. After the big fight, sleeping outdoors, and the rush back, he was wiped out. He planned to sleep first and tell Rin about his heroic victory over the jonin later that evening. It was still early. Even a long nap would leave time to visit Rin. It was totally worth it, Metkai declared brightly, flashing both rows of white teeth and giving a thumbs up. Kakashi only nodded. The mission had been dangerous and exhausting, but they'd gained a lot. Kakashi and Obito went straight home to sleep. Metkai still wanted to train, but Mu Yue ordered him to rest, and the ever-obedient Guy headed home. After sending his students off, Mu Yue went to the Hokage office, instead of stopping at the mission hall's registration desk. Bringing back a jonin's corpse, and the report that went with it, would only bolster the image of him in Hiruzen Sarutobi's mind, he thought. He knocked on the door. Come in, Hiruzen answered. Third Hokage-sama, Mu Yue greeted respectfully. The team I led ran into an unexpected situation on our mission. We encountered a Kumogakure jonin in the Land of Rivers. The Land of Rivers? Hiruzen stroked his beard. Sunagakure is at war with Kumogakure right now. Cloud Ninja showing up there isn't surprising. Even without the third Kazekage, Sunagakure is one of the 5 great nations. They won't give up their territory easily. If Sunagakure concentrates forces to drive the Cloud out, the war could intensify. He considered the problem. Sunagakure didn't want the fighting on their home soil. Their people lived in the scarce oases of the desert. Losing those would be catastrophic. And since Kumogakure had opened hostilities, they wouldn't withdraw easily. If the wind increased their effort, the Cloud would too. 1 jonin and 1 chuunin, you say? Change this to an A-rank mission, Hiruzen decided. In addition to the normal commission, the village will provide a 350,000 ryo bonus. Mu Yue listened. The original commission had been 50,000 ryo, so the total came to 400,000 ryo, over 100,000 ryo per person. That was a generous sum. You've brought me 2 monster students, Hiruzen said, puffing thoughtfully. 2 A-rank missions and a B-rank before they even graduate. Remarkable. That's the kind of record you expect from Jonin who've been out for years, not fresh graduates. They all worked hard and did their part during the mission, Mu Yue replied solemnly. Hiruzen smiled, remembering what Metkai and Obito had accomplished during the summer special training. Your special training had far greater results than the school's. The students said the special training teacher couldn't keep up with you. If all the academy instructors were like you, Mu Yue, I could rest easier. Mu Yue chuckled. Hiruzen's praise of the holiday special training made him think. For the next school holiday, I'll try leading it again, he said. He liked working with the academy. The opportunity to repeatedly practice ninjutsu and raise his students' proficiency was too valuable to abandon. After he finished reporting, Mu Yue left the Hokage building and headed out to the south border forest to train Shisui and Rin Nohara. While Obito and the others rested, two of his disciples were still sharpening themselves with shadow clones. Disciple Metkai diligently completed the commissioned mission, receiving a growth reward of chakra plus 460, additional reward chakra plus 230 for being led by the teacher himself. Disciple Uchiha Obi diligently completed the commissioned mission, receiving a growth reward of chakra plus 460, additional reward chakra plus 230 for being led by the teacher himself. Disciple Kakashi Hake diligently completed the commissioned mission, receiving a growth reward of chakra plus 460, additional reward chakra plus 230 for being led by the teacher himself. Mu Yue blinked at the mission settlement notices. He had expected a modest payout. This mission was different from the straightforward enemy encounter missions. He'd thought the reward would be little, since they'd technically completed the mission before running into the enemy. Apparently, the timing or the fact that it wasn't yet handed in made a difference. The three disciples' total chakra gain was 2,070 points, 70 points more than Obito had received the moment he first awakened his Sharingan. Mu Yue checked his own status panel. Hayate Mugetsu. The extra chakra from his students' training and the mission had pushed his total up to 43,000. It gave him a little more confidence. Nearly 10 months since he'd transmigrated into the Naruto world, and with that chakra, plus his suite of perfect and master-level skills, if he kept his head down and acted cautiously, he felt his life was secure. Mu Yue, good afternoon. Back from a mission? A lively voice called. He turned to see Kushina smiling and waving. Yes, I just turned in the report. Were you out shopping? Just wandering, Kushina said with an exaggerated sigh. Minato's away, and I don't get to eat your cooking anymore. Since being sealed in, she'd spent most days confined to the house, surrounded by the powerful barrier that suppressed tailed beast chakra. She could only move within its range. At first, she'd been content. Minato came by every day to train seals with her and brought Mu Yue's food. But now, with Minato on missions and Mu Yue sometimes away, she was getting bored. How about I rent a kitchen and make you something? I haven't eaten yet either, Mu Yue offered. He didn't invite Kushina to his house. He knew if she could dine there freely, Minato might stop bringing her meals, and she still needed to be careful about where she went. Kushina grinned. Did you read my mind? I was just thinking about your cooking. She accepted readily. Mu Yue found a quiet restaurant with no customers and rented its kitchen. The owner hesitated, who lends their kitchen out, but Kushina paid well, and the sight of 2 shinobi headbands convinced him to agree. The smell of Mu Yue's cooking made the owner salivate. He kept telling himself it only smelled good, but when he saw Kushina devour the food, he knew the taste couldn't be ordinary. Esteemed Ninja-sama, could you stir-fry something for me? I'll pay 500 ryo, the owner blurted. Mu Yue refused the money. His cooking wasn't for profit. Still, when the owner offered to let him use the kitchen for free in the future, Mu Yue accepted on the condition that he could borrow it whenever it wasn't in use. Then he cooked a few more home-style dishes and handed 1 plate to the owner. The first bite made the man reconsider everything about his restaurant. The plate emptied almost as quickly as Kushina's. I'm alive again. Kushina sighed happily as she finished. Then, suddenly cautious, she asked, When I wasn't around, did any other girls go to Minato's house? Her voice had a nervous edge. No, I don't think so, Mu Yue said. Kushina visibly relaxed. Minato's too popular. There are always kunoichi around him, she added in half-exasperation. Have more confidence, Mu Yue said with a smile. Minato even left me a note reminding me not to forget Kushina's meals while he's away. Doesn't that make it sound like I only know how to eat? Kushina pouted, but she couldn't hide the smile tugging at her lips. They chatted a while longer. Kushina asked about Mu Yue's sealing technique training. I've mastered the 5 fingers seal and the contract seal. The 5 element seal feels a bit off, but I should have it in about a month, he said. That's faster than I expected. You've been training hard, Kushina said, impressed. I wouldn't dare disappoint Kushina-sensei's teaching, Mu Yue teased. That's settled then. Kushina struck a teacherly pose, pleased. Konoha's strongest sealing ninja, Kushina, will teach you a upper powerful seal even stronger than the 5-element seal. Stronger than the 5-element seal? Mu Yue asked, curious. Kushina's face brightened with pride. Yes, the Vortex clan's top-tier seal, the 4 symbols sealing. 220. Breath of Thunder Knife Technique. It was obviously impossible to teach a sealing technique in a crowded restaurant, so Kushina prepared to take Mu Yue to the house where the Uzumaki sealing setup was arranged. The place had plenty of room. Besides a resting chamber for Kushina, there were many rooms devoted to training and cultivation. Halfway there, 2 Anbu in animal masks and black robes stepped out of the shadows. Do you intend to take him to that place? That's prohibited, one said. Kushina put her hands on her hips, annoyed. Why so many rules? What's wrong with taking him there? She had no intention of playing polite with the Anbu who had been watching them. When Minato came here, I didn't see you stop him. Minato Namikaze had special permission. The circumstances are different, the Anbu replied evenly. There were good reasons Minato had been allowed. His relationship with Kushina and his status as Jiraiya's favored disciple earned him trust from Konoha's higher-ups. Mu Yue merely looked mildly surprised at the Anbu's sudden appearance. It was an act. He had already seen them with his Byakugan. Mu Yue had deliberately accelerated the appearance of his sealing training in part to use those 2 Anbu as cameras, building an image of himself as a promising ninja. If this is a problem, let's move somewhere else. There should be a quiet spot nearby, Mu Yue said with a gentle smile. Kushina's anger cooled. She wasn't afraid of the Anbu, but she had to consider Mu Yue. Getting into a conflict with them would only cause trouble. The faces under the masks relaxed as well. Mu Yue seemed reasonable, and none of them wanted to make things difficult with a Jinchuriki, but they also could not be seen as lax. In the end, they let them go. They found a cool, secluded spot, and Kushina began to explain the 4 symbols sealing. The 4 symbols is a sealing technique with an extremely high ceiling. The stronger the user, the stronger the seal, and it has enormous potential. Many other powerful seals were developed from the 4 symbols. Mu Yue nodded, recalling his previous knowledge of the jutsu. Minato had indeed improved the 4 symbols, and using it in a particular way could be extended to the 8 trigram sealing style. There was also the reverse 4 symbols, a technique that could cause mutual destruction, but that one hadn't seen practical use. The 8 trigrams, however, was potent. The first layer of 4 symbols could seal a 9-tailed, and a second layer could convert leaked 9-tails chakra into the Jinchuriki's own chakra. Conceptually, even without training, someone like Naruto could rapidly increase his chakra simply by relying on the 8 trigrams seal. Their lesson ran about 3 hours. I have to go back now. Next time we meet, I'll give you the 4 symbols sealing scroll, Kushina said as she stood. She could only be out for so long and couldn't stay away indefinitely. What do you want for dinner? I'll go prepare the ingredients, Mu Yue asked with a smile. Kushina's eyes brightened. After a moment's thought, she said, braised pork, squirrel fish, and magical mapo tofu. Goodbye. Practice your sealing well, or Teacher Kushina can be very scary when she's angry. Kushina cheerfully raised her arm and waved as she left, already thinking of the meal. Goodbye, Mu Yue replied with a smile and a nod. He sent out a shadow clone to buy the groceries while his true body headed to the southern border forest to teach his students. Teacher Mu Yue. Shisui, who had been training, paused to greet him. He couldn't tell whether this Mu Yue was a clone or the original, but Mu Yue usually came in person for training. Mu Yue smiled, nodded, and began instructing. As their session wound down, the students stopped to chat. Was your mission successful this time? Rin Nohara asked, curious. She hadn't seen Obito or Metkai. They sometimes came by after missions. We ran into a few twists, but the outcome was very good, Mu Yue said after a moment's thought. The process had been difficult, but everyone had learned something. Hearing that put Rin at ease. That makes me feel much better. I'm always worried Obito and Kakashi will argue during missions. She smiled, relieved. They care about each other, but neither will say it. Perhaps they enjoy arguing, Mu Yue chuckled. He imagined that if Kakashi ever stopped being brusque with Obito, Obito might feel oddly unaccustomed. Rin's expression softened. If that's true, then Kakashi and Obito really do get along well. Mu Yue looked at her. In his past life, he'd wondered whom Rin truly liked. Over the months, he'd observed that young Rin's affection for Obito often looked like the care of an older sister for a younger brother, worrying about his safety, bandaging him fast when he was hurt, while toward Kakashi she showed a more girlish admiration and camaraderie. If he had to guess, Kakashi had a slightly better chance. Rin's feelings for Obito seemed familial rather than romantic, but they were still children. Everything could change. That evening, Kakashi woke, made a simple dinner, and after a short walk began practicing lightning breathing. Obito's Sharingan put pressure on him, and Metkai was always ready to challenge him. Kakashi wished he could reclaim all the lost time and devote it to training. He set up his log in the yard, drew his white fang short sword, took a stance, and closed his eyes. He was replaying a move he'd used on the mission, a breathing-based sword style he'd created by combining Hatake sword techniques with lightning breathing. Humph. Kakashi adjusted his breathing, letting chakra condense in his feet. Thunderclap flash. He opened his eyes. Chakra erupted from his feet with a crack like thunder, and he shot forward like a bolt. The wooden stake before him split cleanly in two. This move still needs work. Standing in place, Kakashi thought back over his performance. The problem was speed. It was too fast, so fast it outpaced his own reaction time. While speed was usually an advantage, a linear charge that exceeded his ability to adjust could be dangerous. If an opponent understood the nature and trajectory, Kakashi could become quite passive. He needed flexibility. If Thunderclap Flash could turn mid-charge, it would be far more adaptable. I'll ask Teacher Mu Yue about it at tomorrow's training, he decided. Kakashi washed up and went to bed around 10 o'clock. The next morning, Obito stretched awake and felt unusually refreshed. He squinted at the bright light and checked the time. 9. Looking at the sun, he realized it wasn't 9 at night. He'd slept through almost an entire day. I slept from noon yesterday until 9 this morning. His eyes widened. He'd missed the chance to share stories with Rin and felt a pang of regret, but then he remembered he was late for training. "Grandma, why didn't you wake me?" he asked downstairs. "I could see how tired you were. I thought I'd let you rest a little longer," she said with a gentle smile. Who could blame her? Obito snatched a piece of bread, shoved it into his mouth, and dashed for the southern border forest. By the time he arrived, Mu Yue had already been training his disciples for a while. Late right after the mission? Kakashi, who was sparring, immediately scoffed. "Obito's usually not late without a reason," Rin said softly, making Obito blush at the implication. Today, though, he hadn't been helping anyone. He'd simply overslept. "Heh, I accidentally slept through everything," he admitted sheepishly, honest and embarrassed. "It's fine. That mission was tiring. Let's begin training," Mu Yue said with a smile. Obito relaxed, knowing Mu Yue wouldn't make a big deal of such a small mistake. At noon, bubbling with energy, Obito walked up to Kakashi. "Kakashi, I challenge you,"